Hello and welcome. Welcome back to Another Dead Pixel, a podcast where the two of us, losers here, we like to pretend like we know what we're talking about, and we'll explain to you about a bunch of things that we think we're right, and you'll all disagree with us. I'm your host today for episode 6. My name is Joe, and with me, my co host, my companion, the former heavyweight, luchador champion in his youth, El Bebe Tigre.
You go out on your back.
Yeah,
For
as you do,
for
or
the
out on
champion.
top, one of the two.
No, that's an old saying in wrestling, is that you go out on your back. Like you're not allowed to retire like the champion. Like nobody in the modern era gets to do that. Everybody loses their last match.
Well, is that the modern era of the WW, or is that because I don't know how the Libre circuit works anymore?
Well, that would
That
be
was always pretty interesting back in the day.
that would obviously be like the WWE, WWF type thing.
It's just who you pay out. That's all, man. Just pay Vince McMahon and you win. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, you can't. I don't think you can pay him enough because if you, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, because it's like, well, if somebody goes out the champ, then it really hurts the ratings for a long time, because it's like, well, there it's like a soap opera. There has to be some kind of drama,
oh,
and if
you get the Rocky Five situation where there's always one person who's always, who went out on top, and you're like, no, like no matter how good the new guy is, they'll always be compared to this old legend. And so, yeah, you have to fight. Then the young guy has to fight the legend
Yeah, and
and
people
murder
who
him.
are watching are going to be like, well, the champion just left. He just retired. So, like, we're just stuck with watching all of these losers. You always want to be watching the newest champion. That's what I think anyway. But that's the saying in wrestling, is you always go out on your back.
All right.
Um,
Well, on that words of wisdom. All right. Today is we're now recording on December 4th, and it's been a while since we have all been back. So since then, we've had Thanksgiving. How was your holiday weekend?
Pretty good. Spent it with my dad, my stepmom, who live not too far from here. So it's pretty nice. I made some sweet potato casserole. I
Nice.
also had a Friendsgiving too, which is pretty cool. So I got to do a dry run of my sweet potato casserole, and then I got to do it again for the actual Thanksgiving. Lots of lots of delicious food. Unfortunately, the Cowboys lost, so that sucks.
Yeah,
Um,
it's okay. No one
yeah,
cares.
yeah, everyone cares because the Cowboys are America's team. I'll have you know,
They were America's team in the early
they're
'90s. They got
always
off like the
America's
Bulls.
team since time immemorial. Moses rooted for the Cowboys.
Man, no, it's no. The Dallas cheerleaders are America's team, but that's about it. I
They
mean, that's the only thing
they
that's
are America's
stayed true for.
sweethearts. I'll give you that. Yeah, they had that in the middle of the Cowboys game. They had some country singer that I can't think of the name of come out and play, and then they had like all the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders there, like doing their thing, and they're very talented. I'll give them that. They're extremely talented. How about you?
All right.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh man, a long and arduous one. So my current kid, or the first kid now, because so got sick at daycare a week, like couple weeks back, and then starting to get better, but had a weird like rash because of it, like these little bumps and stuff. And we're like, he's not contagious, is he? He's like, yeah, he's probably fine. It's like, yeah, it's okay.
Eh,
Doctor gave a note of being like, he's all clear. I'm like, sweet. And then the next week he went back into daycare and he had the note and everything. Everything's fine. Then he comes and then he starts forming this wicked cough, and I'm like, dude, he's gotten, like, it's called croup, I think it's called. It's essentially the kid's version of a cold. And I'm like, yeah. And the doctor is like, okay, this isn't related to the first thing. He just happened to have bad luck and got sick at daycare again.
wait,
And
it's
I'm like,
wait. A kid's cold is called what?
it's croup. It's like
Croup.
CROUP.
Huh. Okay. I never heard of that.
Um, it's well, it seems to be that that's at least what they don't call it that. The doctors never called it a cold. He's caught it a couple times. Essentially, it's I think it's the forming of the throat. There's like it's when you get that like phlegm layer or something like that, and it causes like a barking cough, so a much more harsh cough. Or sometimes when you intake it air, it'll be like it sounds really bad, but it's like a like kind of a gravelliness to it. And so he got all that right before Thanksgiving. Um, and then I had myself a kid. So yay, new life.
You had
So
another child.
yeah, so I have a second child. So
Congratulations.
yeah, the first child doesn't really like he's still too young to really comprehend that there's a new person in this. So he's just like, no, I'm just gonna go at full speed still. I'm not gonna slow down for nothing.
That's for
Oh
the
yeah, and by the way,
best
I'm
though.
really sick. So
I think that's for the best though. Like it's I don't think you want like a 4 year old or even a 3 year old who's kind of aware of what's going on and then to see the new kid come in. I think it's probably better for his psyche if it's like, I don't really know what's going on. Oh, there's a kid here. Were they always here? I guess so, you know.
yeah, object permanence. It's a fun thing.
Yeah.
He's just like he just looked over. He's like, "What's that?" Okay, whatever. All right, back to my TV or something. He just didn't care. So I was like, okay, that's cool. I was afraid he was just gonna look at him and be like, smack, like assert dominance or something. But no, he's cool with it.
That's great, Joe.
But
I'm really glad. I'm really glad you got down with our kid. That's really amazing.
yeah, it's we're having it's exciting, super exciting, and uh super tiring, but because my first one was sick, I've been mostly like, all right, obviously my wife has to spend time with the newborn, and we're so I'm taking care of the older one, and that means I'm also quarantining them, kind of like we're keeping them in the same living room, but we're making sure they don't touch each other too much because um don't want to risk the newborn getting sick. But and I'm also sleeping differently. I'm sleeping with my eldest in a different room because he's still too young to necessarily be, but he's still in a crib and whatnot. So
Right.
he wakes up and he wants, like he needs somebody or something. So I'm there, which means then I got sick, like stupid sick. And that's what, if you're hearing maybe more nasally or raspy, that's because of me just getting over it now.
You
I
just
still have a
sound more
wicked cough.
manly to me.
Well, I so I it was I blew my this reminds me because I blew my voice out in or in Japan once. That's right. We were doing a goodbye party for a friend, and it was on a Friday night. We did karaoke at a bar. It was actually one of the few places that actually had it was a Western run place, so they had in bar karaoke.
Yeah.
I didn't think we sang that loud. Next morning, my voice was straight up gone. Like you could have just stabbed me, and I would have not made a noise. It was just straight up gone. So then Sunday rolls around, and my voice is, uh, you know, I might as well have been smoking packs of cigars a day for like 20 years because I'm barely be able to speak. It was terrible.
Well,
So
when you
no,
blast
no.
the let the bodies hit the floor, and and you're pretty drunk, you're not gonna realize that you're screaming at the top of your lungs.
And then what happened was Monday I had a class. My Monday morning class is with these older women, all grandmothers essentially, um, or at least easily like older than my mom. And it was just funny because I come in this super deep and I'm like I'm trying to speak to them, and I'm having this coffee shop class with them, so I'm just talking with them for like they pay me just to talk with them for an hour and give me coffee and a breakfast. I'm like, sure, that works. And they're like, "Ah, Joe, your voice, has that's a sexy." I'm like, "No, no, I do not need to hear you say that."
I don't, I don't need that kind of boner. I don't need that boner.
It was just funny. I'm like, why is me sounding like I've been smoking all my life a sexy voice? I don't know. So that was really funny. Yeah, my voice was just like it was one of those weird ones because usually I know when I throw my voice out, blaring "Run to the Hills" at the first song of the karaoke with four other buddies. in Korea. Obviously, the moment that song ended, I'm like, yeah, my voice is shot. And guess what? I still have another 2 hours of karaoke left in me. That's a commitment you make. Um,
You have to do that. Speaking of karaoke, I went to a friend's birthday party last night, and she wanted a karaoke party. So she rented this, like, she rented two mics and a like a boom box or whatever to run them through along with the iPad, and we all just sang karaoke. Haven't done that in a while. It was just at her house. It was it was an experience once again, but it was cool because we could just use YouTube. So like a lot of the problem with the karaoke in like Japan was you go to a karaoke box and they would have like a song that was like the song that you
it's the
wanted.
MIDI tone version. It's like the old cell phone, like when you had flip phones and you had to put the MIDI tone version of the song. So it's like it's almost it's like that sounds like the Imperial March, but it's not quite there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something missing about it, but these were a little bit better. I think some of the songs were a little bit were like shortened. Thankfully, they were shortened, but yeah, it was pretty interesting. I haven't ever met somebody who actually wanted to have who liked karaoke enough to want to have that for their birthday party,
You just been hanging out with the wrong friends.
or the right ones until now.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that, hey, if it's in the comfort of your own home, that's fine.
Yeah.
I've never been one for the bar scene for
Oh
karaoke, but
gosh.
having
Yeah.
karaoke booth, and having the shame of singing with your coworkers and or friends, that's always been a team building exercise to say the least.
Yeah. You've got to. Yeah. Like there was one girl that was there that I had never met before, and her husband were like they didn't let on at first, but we kind of figured out that they were people who like to do karaoke like pretty often, and he was okay. He was just kind of he wasn't like a good singer really. He was just sort of in control of what he was doing. Um, but she was like she was like, oh, I'll get up there after a while, and some people sang, and then like finally she got up there, and I forget what song she sang, but we were all kind of laughing and carrying on until she started to sing, and then everyone just kind of shut up. Not because it was bad, but
No.
because she was like legitimately pretty good. I mean, not gonna blow you away, but I was just like, oh, you can sing, okay? Like,
Yeah, right. It's one of those things that after years of karaoke, my singing hasn't gotten any better at all.
yeah, you got to take lessons and stuff like that, and even then, you just have there's only so much that you're born with being able to do.
No, I had these two friends in Japan. They love the Johnny's scene, which is Johnny's is the group company or whatever that sponsor a lot of the uh boy bands, I guess is the best way to
Oh,
put it.
okay.
Um so your was it your Snap V8 or V8 V6, I forget, one of those. um the A lot of Johnny's controls a lot of these smaller groups, and they're all mostly targeted as all male groups towards women. Tokyo, which I actually generally like Tokyo, um and things like that. They end up So they were big fans of that whole company, and they were one of the few uh, Americans who would try to go to these concerts, and they had a few people that they really like. They'd always try to see their concerts specifically. uh, one could One thought they could sing really well, and so whenever we went to karaoke, they would be belting, and they thought they did really well. And we're like, you always do the polite thing in Japan. Doesn't matter how bad you sing, everyone claps and smiles. And yeah, I'm like, yeah, yeah, exactly. The other one could actually sing. um, and so when one of them, the one who couldn't sing, eventually after a couple years left, and then we're like, well, at least we're stuck with the one that can sing, and so we end up going with karaoke. And it's like, it was one of those things that I've heard enough of those Johnny songs to actually get them ingrained into my brain to a certain extent.
Mm.
And so I was super drunk, I couldn't necessarily remember like the key words or the whole song. I would at least know the chorus, So I would be an accompaniment to the other one. So I'd be like, yeah, all right. She's as they're singing, I would do the chorus bit in the background, and I was able to do that confidently enough at being, as drunk as I would be, because you'd go for free time, which means you pay one flat rate, and you can sing so long as no one needs the room. Like there's not a queue, you can sing almost all night long. And then
Nice.
you also then pay for the beer and like the small liquor portion of free time. So you spend an extra $30 or something, and then you get all you can drink for that entire time. So sometimes you'd be drinking and singing till like I don't know 4 when they close, and then you're like, well, I got an extra hour before the first train starts, so I'm just going to chill outside a convenience store and keep my drink on, and then take the first train home, and then sleep the entire rest of that day. Uh,
That is some hard living right there.
I mean,
It's pretty
it's
good
good to
though.
do it in your youth. I don't know how much I could do it anymore. Well, I wouldn't be able to with children, obviously, but
Yeah.
so yeah, my Thanksgiving mostly in a hospital. Our
Well,
our, our
yeah.
turkey dinner was two. They actually had a special turkey dinner. It was 2 slices and gravy, mashed potatoes, pretzel roll. So it was actually not bad. I mean, hospital food gets a bad rap, but the one
Yeah.
we've gone to for both of our kids has solid food.
That's
I
good.
actually really like it. Yeah.
That's good. Your in-laws came in, right? Like,
Yeah,
did they
my
not bring
my mother-in-law is
anything?
currently helping out. She'll be here till Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
She'll be here till Tuesday, and then she has some commitments that she has to do. So I'm like, you know what? You're welcome back, real quick. Just do that thing you got to do and come on back.
Anytime. Anytime. We got 2 kids and you can have them. um,
I mean, you could take the older one with you for a week. Come on. I mean, I know diaper changing sucks, but yeah, it's okay. You get used to it.
so,
No, they're good. My mother-in-law's been a fucking blessing, so
so I,
I'm super happy.
I kind of had 3 Thanksgivings. I had a Worksgiving. So our work put on a Thanksgiving, which was very nice of them. And then I had Friendsgiving, and then I had a regular family Thanksgiving. But at the Worksgiving, one thing that happened is we were all gathered around, and there's this there was this coworker of mine who had procured a particular type of hot sauce, and she had already had several of her closest workmates try this hot sauce. So, have you ever heard of the YouTube series Hot Ones?
No.
So, there's a YouTube series called Hot Ones, and they just try different hot sauces. And it has like, I think the video that this one's in is like 79 million views. It's ridiculous. But it's this hot sauce called Da Bomb. Uh,
Okay.
and have you ever seen the meme of Shaquille O'Neal making that face like that, where
Yeah.
he's like that, that face? So that meme comes from the time that he was on Hot Ones, and he put his finger on just a little bit of it and like tasted it, and that was like the face that he made because it was like so hot. So she had this hot sauce, and a bunch of them were trying it, or had already tried it, and some were going to try it. And she was like, "Hey Nick, do you want to try it?" And I was like, "No." And then I thought about it over the weekend, and for a while, and I was like, you know what? Why did I just say no? I should try that hot sauce. I think I have to try that hot sauce now. So on Monday, I went over there to her cubicle, and I was like, "You got any of that hot sauce?" And she was like, "No, but I could bring it tomorrow." So she brought it on Tuesday. So Tuesday I went back over there after lunch, and good God, dude. So what they'd been doing is they'd been putting it on a cracker and then eating the cracker, and and so whenever I went over there, they didn't have any crackers. So she was like, "Just go get a plastic spoon." So I grabbed a plastic spoon, and she put like she put like two dimes stacked on top of each other. Like that's how much of this hot sauce that I got. Um, the thing is that when she put it on the spoon, like a little bit more than she intended came out, and I could tell because she laughed. She was like, like that. And I'm like holding the spoon out and she's like, all right, there you go. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like shaking. Like I'm like literally like pretty much like shaking. And she's like, okay. And I was like, okay. And I like turned the spoon upside down on my tongue, got it all, and just swallowed it as fast as I could. And it burned, but it started to really burn. Like even though it wasn't in my mouth anymore, it was just like straight fire. And I was like, oh my gosh. But instantly my stomach said to me, what did you just do? My stomach was immediately like, no. I felt like my belly just go like, so somebody who had tried this, they had thrown up after trying it. And I can totally see why, because it makes your stomach just hate you. It just hates you. So by this time, a bunch of people had gathered around to watch. So I have like 4 or 5 people up from their desks, gathered around, and they're like, how do you feel, Nick? And I'm like, I think I'm okay. And they're like, it just gets worse. And they were right.
It does.
It just builds and builds and builds. So I had this thing of water, and I was just drinking water, but I could feel my stomach starting to act up pretty bad. And I was like, I think I'm going to go stand by the bathroom. So I went to go stand by the bathroom, and then I remembered that I had some yogurt left over from lunch. So I went and got this yogurt, and I had a pretty good amount of it. And so I started to eat this yogurt, and it really helped. It started to help pretty much immediately. My mouth I wasn't so worried about. I mean, it was just kind of dealing with that pain, but it was my stomach, and my stomach immediately began to be coated, I guess, in the yogurt, and immediately began to settle. So, but it was probably like 4 or 5 hours before I had no symptoms remaining of the hot sauce. But then I worked out that night, and as I was jogging on the treadmill, and my stomach was just felt like it just had like acid reflux, like really bad, just really bad heartburn. And I was like,
expecting you to be like, yeah, and I was jogging to and from the bathroom. You know, that's what I was expecting you to be.
no, actually, like everything after that was fine. But yeah.
So I'm not sure, like people make, I've tried doing the chicken wings at a place that did the, sign the waiver. It
Ooh.
was back in Madison. It was a place called Quaker Steak and Lube.
Okay.
And they had like, I forget, they had like a Tuesday like wing night or something like that for like X amount, like $15. You get unlimited wings, and then for like a couple bucks you can try their ghost wing challenge. And I'm like, you know what, sure, why not? And so you sign the stupid waiver, they give it to you, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna eat. Like, all right, let me try it. I tried it. I'm like, all right, we started eating it. I'm like, it has a vinegary taste. It was really weird. I was like, all right, this isn't really that bad. And then it's like the aftertaste, and that's when it starts kicking in. It's like, I'm like, all right, yeah, this isn't flavorful. This is just a chemical burn at this point.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, this is not pleasant. And I grew up eating a bunch of spicy stuff, so that really, the spice level wasn't that as bad as I expected it to be. But at the same time, like, no, you're just literally pushing the envelope to see how badly your body can react. And I'm like, dude, this isn't a good time. At least if it tasted good, I can see that. Like, oh yeah, this tastes really good, but also it makes you poop fire. I'm like, all right, well, at least you have one part that's good. There's a pleasure before the suffering. I mean, but no, this is like, this didn't taste good, and it just makes you sick. I'm
yeah,
like, all right.
Like I don't think you should do it more than once, but I think that
it's fun to try things just to have the experience too, for sure.
Yeah, but I was just kind of like, I'm not going to be I mean, there's a few people who do like never tried it, and it's fine, but I was just thinking, I'm going to fucking try this because I need to make a statement. I need to make a statement to myself that I can do it. I think everybody should do something like that at least once. Um,
I'm that
just so
way
you
with
know.
most foods in general.
Yeah.
I like, if being in different countries, I like you try the weird stuff. I mean, never like it's one of those things that I would never go out of my way to be, for the most part, to be like, yeah, where's this kind of like, I was in China and I was with a buddy and they're like, yeah, you want to try a goat testicle? I'm like, sure. I'm in the middle of eating chicken kidneys right now, anyways. It's like, hands me the skewer that was grilled over this charcoal in front of this tiny shop that's looks like they're just coat hangers. Essentially, is what the skewers were. These aluminum coat hangers. And like, yeah, here's your chicken kidneys, and then like here's your goat testicle. And like, if you honestly, it was all ground up meat or like just kind of on there. I'm like, I wouldn't have been able to tell if you slipped that in. I'm like, this is really chewy, really fatty, and yeah, it's all right. It's not like I'm chewing on a big old egg or something. So it's
I've had some Rocky Mountain oysters, and I didn't finish them because it's just the thought is just too much for me. But I did try them, and they're not particularly anything that I feel like I need to try again.
Yeah, the only time I ever really felt weird was the first time I tried one of those IU fish
Mm.
in Japan. It's like they're small fish, I would say, like 6 inches, roughly to a foot, but usually a little smaller than, so then they cook it and you're supposed to eat it from like, head to tail, just eat it all. Um, and the first time I had one of them, I remember being I was at high school and it was my host family in Japan. I I went ahead and put the head in my mouth, bit down, and there was a disconnect in my brain. My brain went, nope, can't do it. I'm like, that you have a whole head in your mouth and you're about to start chewing on this thing. I'm like, and I had to push through it. And I'm like, all right, yeah, no, this isn't my favorite. That's for sure. You get accustomed to it after a while, but it was one of those things. I was my host family. I got to be polite. Got to be good. Yeah, all right, cool. I made it through it. Powered it. Yeah, I'm like, all right, I'm done.
Got to do it. And they're like, "Why did you eat the
Uh,
head?"
yeah. Well, it was funny because it was like, um, I made the joke with my host father because he liked guts, and I'm like, dude, no, like, all right. I said all the bugs, all the things, and like if you go fishing, I'm like the bait you use that goes in its stomach, and then you're eating the stomach, so you're eating the thing you used as bait, and he's just like, yeah. He just thought about it for a second, like, you never thought about that. um
I
but
mean,
yeah,
it's
it's
good
just
enough
like,
for the fish, and I'm eating the fish. Like,
so no, give me
yeah.
the fish meat is one thing, but innards, the guts, the head, I'm like, yeah, that's not necessary.
I need the protein, not the iron, man. I've got plenty of iron in my diet.
The fish eye soup, that was also pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Live squid or octopus, well, you
Whoa, I've
cut
never
it up
done
and it's all
that.
wiggly and stuff. Yeah, it's
That's kind of dangerous, right? Like you have to
yeah,
eat it a certain. You
totally.
have to eat it.
uh
With like you have to eat it
You
kind
have
of.
to have some sesame oil on there, so it slides down. Because when I put it in my mouth, it slapped the side of my mouth, and I had to literally pry it off. Carry like I have some video of that. So
Dude,
um, no, that's yeah,
wow.
that people choke on that stuff because they stick on the inside. You're like, yeah, I need something to chase this down with. And then it's all cut up, so but it still has enough, like electrical signals to body. It still wiggles.
Okay.
So
Because like they do that in
yeah.
Old Boy, right? Like he eats. He.
Oh, I think that's different though. He just takes the whole thing. Yeah, that was nasty.
I feel yeah, because it's
I've
still
not.
alive. But like I think that was
Yeah,
one of the things about that movie is that they filmed him really doing that, which is fucking badass. I mean, jeez, if you're gonna do it though, you may as well do it hardcore like that.
yeah. So all right. Well, speaking on the topic of food, so you said you made those yams or something like that for
Sweet
your
potato casserole, yeah.
All right. Um, so my wife ended up making what she calls or I think what Reddit calls Christmas crack. Um, and what it is it's you have a baking dish and you have like a layer of saltine crackers, like more or less it's like a bunch of butter, um, some melted chocolate, and I guess maybe some other things. But it's like you end up baking it up so all the chocolate melts and it just becomes these little kind of like peppermint bark type of. It's a brittle cracker chocolate dish, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
addictive as all hell. So yeah, Christmas crack. She made a bunch of that. She also made She made a variant with uh was it peanut butter chips. She did peanut butter chips, and then she did another one where it was instead of saltines, she did graham crackers, chocolate, and then she melted marshmallows on top. So she made her own little s'more version.
Okay.
Uh, and it turned out really well, and also super bad for you. And you feel guilty as shit when you're eating them. Like, yeah, I can't be eating these, but here I am eating them by the
It's
fistful. Uh,
fine. It's fine.
so yeah, so that was that's been a bit on that end for the holidays. But speaking of the holidays, the other important part, Black Friday. Uh, how have you survived the Black Friday
Oh, I did
or
okay.
Cyber Monday? You know?
I was really close to buying a bunch of different stuff, and I ended up just getting Tales of Arise. So I'll be playing that at some point in the future, I hope. Um, well, I got that, and I got Sekiro, so I've been playing that a little bit, but not enough to talk about it yet. And yeah, I've got to cut down on my spending in general. So I've got Christmas gifts, lined up. But besides that, I was just like, I don't have, I have a manageable amount of credit card debt, but I want to get it paid down. So I'm just like, I just got what I know I'm going to use in the near future. And for the next few months, I'm just gonna be working on getting that credit card debt down and saving for other stuff and probably for Black Friday next year. But yeah,
Yeah.
how about you?
Um, I pretty much got away unscathed for the most part. Buying a bunch of necessities for the house now. So now that I'm gonna have my kid eldest in a different room. I bought myself like little ways, home security camera thing, so I can use my phone to check up on them as a night cam and nanny cam,
Yeah,
type thing. So things like that. Haven't didn't really buy anything expensive or exciting. No games, unfortunately. I've I have a back catalog that I haven't really gotten around to, and
as
there's a
do
lot
we
of stuff
all.
like
Yeah,
I need to. I'm like I have this new child now. I'm like maybe my spending should just go to that new child. Yeah, that's the responsible thing. So I guess I'll do that.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's yeah, it was pretty dull on my end. Just bunch of small necessities.
I th-
Um,
I think I really am gonna aim for next year. A uh what do you call it? Like a C1, like a LG C1 OLED TV, or if they come out with something else that's newer, better in that price range, then I'll go for that. But yeah, I think
yeah,
that's what I'm gonna
the
be doing
C2,
next.
because I'm pretty sure the C1 is probably just it's the 2021 model, so they'll probably have a C2 when it comes out. So
Hopefully, but I mean, like the 48 inch was pretty reasonable. The 55 inch was is kind of the smallest that I wanted to go for. And 65 was the real place that I wanted to be at. But I'm going to get a new apartment this coming March. So I need to make sure that I don't. So I need to get in there and see what my viewing, range is, so I don't buy something that's too big for my space. Because I should have a big enough living room, but you never know. You might not. So
yeah,
there's
the
so much
55
calculus.
inch, I went with the an LG. I forget now. This is back in 2019 or something. And that version had the good HDR, but it didn't have. It was like a year or two before the HDMI 2.1 standard. So we can't be upgraded to that. But honestly, it's a really nice TV. I really like it. We went with the 55 inch for that because it was on killer sale.
Yeah.
And then we did. I bought a cheapo 65 inch, like Vizio or something like that. It just gets the job done for just any viewing entertainment from far back. But that one was dirt cheap. It was like 300 or something like that, and that was a year or two ago. Nothing special for gaming or anything like that, but just for watching and chilling in the living room. It's really nice. Um, but we're far enough away that it's like I kind of talked myself into it. I'm like, dude, I can go 75 inch and it still look really good up here. I'm like, no, I can't.
Dude, yeah, I mean, like, I want like a 85 to 100 inch. Like, that's just a freaking wall of a TV. But
Just get a projector then, man. At that point, I
No,
mean,
projectors fucking suck. I hate projectors. People are always like, get a projector at that point. It's like a projector doesn't produce light. Like yeah, it's nice in theory, but it has to be pitch black, and it doesn't ever look as good. It just doesn't
oh
ever
nope.
look as good as an OLED screen with those gamma rays just like pouring into your eye brains, and just like, oh, this is the best. Like I need the backlight. I need the backlight.
Yeah. No, the OLED is super nice when it's like, are you turned off or are you? Oh yeah, nope. The little lights in the corner. Okay, you're on. So
Yeah.
yeah, those pitch black, the blacks are really nice levels. So eventually, I would like to get myself. I'm excited. The new monitors coming out. They're finally starting to do OLED monitors a little bit better, because you can't really get true HDR with a lot of the mainstream monitors. And then when you do, you're paying like 3 grand or something like that, for a really good HDR contrast in a monitor. I'm like, dude, I can't spend 3 grand on a monitor. That just there's no way I can justify that.
No, not making a mortal human being's salary. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
it's hard enough to justify, like people who spend 27 inch on a 27 inch, 4K monitor. They'll spend like 2 grand. I'm like, dude, well, I mean, I can see it if your job has to do with like video editing or photography or something like that. That makes perfect sense that you need that, and therefore you can expense that. I'm like, for a hobbyist like myself, nah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like my dream, and it's inconceivable that they would ever be able to do this, or at least for a long time. But like my dream is like a 49-inch curved widescreen monitor that's OLED and 2160p. But it'll be like, I don't know if they'll ever be able to actually do that because there's such a narrow group of people who would actually buy it, and it'd be insanely expensive.
Yeah, what was it? The G9s, by was it Samsung?
Yeah.
Those are pretty sweet. The G9s are like, I don't know, they're literally two 27 inches slapped together. It has 1,000 degree curve. So if you had like three of them, it'd make a full 360 ring around you or something
Uh,
like that.
Probably more than three,
Um,
but yeah.
but yeah, you might. They're stupid nice. They're also really expensive, and now they just came out with the like a nano IPS model, which is like the Neo G9 or something. So I'm curious where they're going to go with the next iteration,
You
because I
know,
feel like this.
it's funny that you talk about like wrapping around you because I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and he had this guy on who's into like F1 racing and stuff like that, and the guy was talking about how that the racing crews, to the driver, like they don't use VR, like, or they don't use VR, but they do use like wraparound monitors in a simulator. And like that's like, so that's one of the things they do is they use like multiple wraparound monitors, and they have like a machine that like jostles them and stuff, so they can like really feel like they're really racing. And I think I mean, you could get pretty close, probably like 10 grand. You could get pretty close to a feeling like you're really in the cockpit of a race car, which would be pretty
They
sweet.
have this little machine that fits underneath your you can buy those at home, bucket seat, and monitor mounting combo, the frame.
Hmm.
So you can buy those for the racing sims, and I think it's like 1,500, but it's a little box that essentially goes underneath your seat and your bucket seat and causes the jostling and like some of that motion. Apparently, it's really good, and it's like the cheapest and smallest form factor they've had so far. I'm like, yeah, that's really cool, but one of the things is like I can't justify that either. But man, that would be awesome.
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
you got
10 grand's about the minimum you need to get a really nice setup.
yeah.
But then also depends. That's all the equipment minus the computer. um,
Yeah.
yeah, depending on how if the world ever stops burning, and prices drop back down to normal.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that stuff is really irritating because it's like, I think I heard that Nvidia was pulling back the production of the 30 series because the price was coming down more than they wanted it to. And I was like it's just insane. I mean, it just sucks.
Well, I assume they were going to milk this one out for longer because that's what they did with the 10 series as well. Or the 1080 line because
Oh
that was
yeah.
such a well received line, and then that's when cryptocurrency really started booming. So they actually extend that everything was on a yearly cycle then, and that was the first time they extended it to 2 years. So that wasn't a big surprise. Um,
They're saying that the 40s are coming, that the 40s are coming this summer, but I mean that's just
I'm not.
conjecture.
I don't think they're going to because they still haven't been able to meet the 30 series demand, and that's why I'm like I don't know. But also
Yeah.
there's a bunch of rumor or because Apple's been paying for their new Apple's never had to delay a phone release, and so they pay what they need to get to cut themselves in line and take ownership.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the 30 series is going to be solid for a while. Honestly, I'd be surprised if they came out next year with the 40 series cards, just because I think they have enough. Every time they release a new variant of the 30 series, people are pissed because they still can't get the old variant. Like, like yeah, here's this another high end model. Here's an in between model. Here's another low end. And like, we can't get any of these. Quit cutting the dies. Just give us what we want.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm saying like the 3060 is ridiculously overpriced. It's
yep.
like if you're going to I mean, you could get you can get a 3080 I think for around 1500 if you try. They're often more expensive, but I think you can get it for around that. And it's like a 3060 is 1,000. It's like if you're going to spend $1,000, I don't know. I can't imagine being the person who can spend $1,000 and need it bad enough right then to not just go ahead and spend the extra 500 and get the 3080 instead of the 3060.
Yeah,
It's
but that's it's one of those things that's like when it comes to MSRPs and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, if you're overpaying for the low end model, then you might as well be trying to upgrade.
yeah.
But I mean, it's better off. You're better off buying from you're better off biting the bullet, buying a pre-made set, and then disassembling it if you wanted to, just for the components you need.
And selling those
Because going
parts.
to buying yourself a Dell or buying yourself like an iBuyPower or something, ripping out the components you need and putting that into something, into your own custom machine. If you really want to get that, finicky.
It's probably what I should have done is done that and then sold off the parts and then built and then still taking a hit but built my other parts with the money I made off of it. Yeah, it's a mess.
Well, all right. Speaking about messes, all right. So, I've watched a couple things recently, and
Cool.
I'm yeah, I've been all right. So this is I'm gonna go with the good, the bad, the ugly, but instead it's more of the mediocre, disappointing, and bad. Uh, so here we go. Yeah, I finally got around to watching Shang Chi, and I was just I don't know, whelmed.
Just
I
you're
mean,
regularly whelmed. That sounds
it was
dirty,
just
dude.
it was just I was
Show
like
me
I
on the
wasn't
doll
expect
where Shang-Chi touched you.
it was literally just I mean, I don't know, I had no care for this movie to begin with. But actually the main actor, I know him from Kim's Convenience. So it's on Netflix. I genuinely like his character and I'm like, all right, you know what? That made me a little at least piqued my interest. And then when I realized when I started watching, I didn't see a single trailer for this movie, the entire lead up. I only saw the poster and I'm like, wait a minute, is that dude? I'm like, oh, it is. Okay, and when it came to Disney, I went ahead and like it was, I was like, all right, it's free, so why not give it a shot? And then I realized Aquafina was the sidekick, and I'm like, ah, really? Um,
Have
I
you
don't know anything about Aquafina other than the fact that she was in that Jumanji movie, and she didn't do anything for that Jumanji movie either.
you should watch Aquafina is something from Queens. I forget. Anyway, it's her TV show, and
Okay.
I watched the first season of that, and it's pretty good. It's kind of funny, it's kind of weird, but also a little bit of a coming of age kind of thing. So I have respect for her.
Okay. I'm like, if you're watching an Asian coming to age, then you just need to watch those at American Girl with Margaret Cho. That was an early '90s sitcom.
Maybe something a
Yeah.
little more up to date though too would be fine.
I don't know. I just watching her. I've only seen her in the second Jumanji movie and now this, and I'm like, she's just like the Asian Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh,
She
come
makes that
on.
raspy voice. She has that. She
Come
has
on.
the horrible posture, and I'm like, I'm just watching her. I'm like, is this your stick? Is this like you're just over exaggerating, going through these motions? I'm like, okay,
First of all, there will never be another Gilbert Godfrey. Second of all, she doesn't have that. I mean, she has like a kind of a boy, like a boyish charm voice to her, but she doesn't go, what are you doing?
that she's like a hop, skip, and a jump away, man. I can easily see
she's
her doing that.
she's a
Give her
country
another 10
mile.
years, give her some smokes, and then she'll be voicing over for Disney. I mean, there you go. Uh,
Hopefully. And we all hope that we end up voicing over for Disney.
yep. So no, it's just like I was just there was the movie was just okay from front to back. I'm like, this there wasn't anything particularly great or grand about it. I'm like, it had really cool visuals. And I was just like, yeah, the bus scene was kind of fun. Uh, But other than that, it was just I don't know. Did you ever get around to watching this?
No, I had no desire to see this whatsoever.
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
I, I
You're
s-
really not.
I saw Black Widow as this
Okay.
was coming out, and it's kind of funny because they're almost rolling Marvel movies into each other, which I think is too much. I mean, Black Widow was still playing when this was playing, and I think this was probably still playing whenever Eternals came out. Um,
Yeah, it was. Because this and Eternals came out pretty close to each other. Black Widow got delayed because of
well, yeah,
COVID. So that one was already ready. But that's the thing. This whole wave of movies for Marvel I've had zero desire to watch really any of it.
yeah.
Um, so that I guess that's my big thing is like I was expecting a little bit more from it, but really not a whole bunch because like I think the one another poster I saw or something like that had Wong on it from Doctor Strange. I'm like, cool, Wong's going to be in it. He's not really in it. He's
Uh,
a quick cameo in one scene, and then they throw him back in as the post credit spot, and that's really about it. And I'm like, oh, okay. But then there's your there's your whole Doctor Strange kind of tie-in,
so
and yeah,
so he probably did all of his scenes in one day, just like
like something like that. I mean, it really didn't take him much to do his bit, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was I had a little more hope because I'm like, oh, okay, Wong's in it, that's cool, and yeah, he's not.
I I, th-
So,
I think that they missed the boat. I think Disney missed the boat, and I mean, I know it's hard to turn a ship that big, but like, I think they should have gone for putting a lot of their eggs in the TV show basket and getting that Disney Plus up and going with really badass TV shows, because you can tell that their premium Marvel shows they're still a little bit budget. They're good and they're high budget, but they're still a little bit budget for what we know Disney can produce. I think they should have done that, and then their movies switched over to doing one to maximum four a year, but probably more like one or two a year, and just kind of save the big heavy hitting stuff for the movies. And
well, that's what they were doing is they were essentially doing 1 to 2 a year, for up until lead, and like I said, COVID's the what made really kind of mucked things up, but it's just this whole line. After you literally make half the world disappear and bring that pull back, and it's like, it's kinda hard to ramp up to a next new exciting thing, and since you're trying not to well, other than Black Widow, draw out the old cast, you're trying to give Black Widow, like, relevance because it's technically different Black Widow, um, in theory. So I hadn't seen the movie, so I have zero desire to see that one either.
it's
Eternals, I only have an inkling to see because a friend of mine really talked up the meta stuff, like all the theoretical background things, and just like the one TV show that the Loki show. Yeah, it's like the whole back end of that show series. They kind of lead things that tie into each other. He's like the fan theories and this and that. I'm like, okay, a buddy of mine really hyped it up, and I'm like, all right, you have me interested. but at the same time, nowhere near as interested as I was beforehand. I mean, these are, for better or less, better or worse, like B to C tier heroes and like storylines you're pulling from. Like, not everyone knows the Avengers, straight up, and even before it got so big, people knew who Captain America was. You mention anyone from the Eternals, you're like, who? Like, no one knows a
What are
single
the
person.
Eternals? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, honestly, if you would have said the Eternals was the Amazon Prime ripoff show of superheroes, just like it's like an X-Men, but not. I'm like, I would have totally believed you. It
Yeah.
sounds like a spoof.
Yeah.
So
I mean, to me, I think that they should have done something more like they should have had the Loki TV show, um, and then introduced the Eternals through Loki. So it's like, okay, show me why this thing, the Eternals, that I've never heard of, show me why it's cool. And I'm not going to just go watch that by itself. But if you show me something I want to see, like Loki, who's the star, and then the Eternals are his problem or whatever, then I might, then you can feed into like a movie of their own. Then I'm like asking for a movie of the Eternals, but you've kind of got to prove it to me first.
yeah, but I honestly think I don't think I don't trust Disney with making like, you give them too much faith in their TV credit. I don't think they'd be able to make they've done surprisingly okay with their TV shows currently. But if you tried making them give them a longer series, you're just going to get another Agents of Shield or whatever mishap. And I honestly don't think that's anyone would be happy from that. I think having these little mini series is fine. But also having too many of those miniseries, then people, you're gonna lose interest because you're like, well, now I gotta watch all this other bull crap. It's far easier to say, hey, watch these 5 films than it is to say, yeah, watch these 3 different TV shows
That are
and
all
these
10
35
hours long.
episodes. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
I
I
it's
mean, I definitely see your point about it. I think that they, I was kind of disappointed in Loki in parts. I think, WandaVision was pretty easily the best thing that they've put on TV, which is I guess why they did it first. I don't know. I There's just some stuff about it about the others that they just feel budget, and I'm just like, I know that you've got the money. I would even if it was like, I mean, they only do it like 6 episodes for some of these. It's like that's 40 minutes an episode. That's a little over 2 hours. You're not really doing. I mean, it's like 3 hours, but by the time you're done, it's pretty much a long movie. If you combined it all, so I don't know. I think that they don't know what to do next, and they're struggling. They're trying to do
that
what's
I'll agree with
worked.
because, like I
Yeah,
said, when you're working with this, like, there's not a clear. They're trying to do these introductions to these other cast members, and none of
yeah,
them have the notoriety of, you know, um, any of the A team, Captain America or any of them. So it's just, it's you're pulling things at a, and you're gonna have to what, reintroduce the Fantastic Four yet again or something. And
oh,
they've never done a good Fantastic Four bit. You're going to, I mean, the best thing you got from Fantastic Four was Captain America, uh, you know, because he was originally Johnny Storm in the original.
oh yeah, yeah. He was. I mean, he was a good Johnny Storm too. Like he fit that role pretty
Um,
well.
I I just remember the only thing I remember from that first movie was they spend the entire movie just barely learning like all the quirkiness of here's where our powers are, and then at the very end they're like, and now we're just gonna make like a supernova and like combine all our powers, and it's like, wait a minute, it's literally the same thing happened in Frozen. She's like, I can't control my powers, and bam, here's an ice castle, like, and I can make clothing now, boom, like, just, and I've literally just had to take a 5 minute walk, or the length of a song, and now I've mastered my ability. I'm like, wait a minute, what? That's kind of what happened in fact the original Fantastic Four. It's like, we now we can do this ultimate move, and we just spent the entire movie just barely learning how to do it. Um,
Yeah.
so
So
that was the kind of like, really, that was your big pull off.
yeah,
Then your bad guy was the guy from Nip Tuck.
I,
That's all I remember.
oh man, yeah, and it's yeah. I read Fantastic Four a lot as a kid. For some reason, for like 2 years there, I really liked Fantastic Four, and I have like a whole bunch of those issues straight in a row. And what I liked about it, there was a good artist on it at the time, so that was cool. But what I liked about it was kind of the teamwork. Like when X Men was good and when Fantastic Four was good, at least the fighting part, the action scenes were when they worked together as a team to show you why, like like why they can win and that they can only win when they work together. Um, so I think any movie that succeeds is going to do that. But like the Fantastic Four is a weird for this day and age. It's a strange dynamic because they're a literal family. Like they're a husband and wife, and then a brother and an
A
uncle or
friend, I
and
thought.
a
Oh, was he an uncle? I always thought
Ben.
he was just a friend.
Maybe Ben's just an old friend or something like that. But it's a really like 1950s kind of dynamic going on there. Like nowadays, you don't have like your your brother in the superhero thing. I guess Loki's a brother, but it doesn't really feel like it. Like it's odd. Or like husband and wife. It's not something that you see very often as like the running dynamic. Like they might work toward that, but it's not like the running dynamic. So I don't know. Fantastic Four. If I was in charge of one of these things, I'd stay away from it until I got a really good script because people are not asking for it, and it's not going to be easy to make.
Yeah. No, like I said, no, I don't have any hopes for the near future. I'm not excited about any of it. So I'll still take a peek at things. Like I said, I'll take a look at Eternals. I might get around to watching Black Widow eventually, just to. It doesn't have the sheriff from Strange Things in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
it had, like I said, that it sparked zero interest at all for me personally. Mainly because it's like, all right, I understand why you're doing this because she's dead, and now you got to do some sort of filler. Like this is the new person who's, I'm like, all right,
it,
spoilers, I guess, but
it's just boring. Like it's just not like they don't do anything really interesting. They don't. It's just this. It's just the same thing again, and the bad
all
guy
right.
is
This is
unearned.
us talking about the same thing again and again, so I'm gonna skip on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Hard cut. All right. So now for the disappointing, just like all we've just been talking about. Finally got around to watching that Cowboy Bebop TV show on Netflix. Um, I had no hope going into this, not really. A buddy of mine really got excited about it and like, yeah, we gotta watch the first couple episodes. I'm like, fine, all right, I guess. And so, like, wait, before we start, let me get my drink on. And so I proceeded to make my own little drinking game while this happened because it's pretty much, it did not fail my expectations of being as disappointing as I expected. For anyone who doesn't know, Cowboy Bebop, well, one of the best anime ever. It's was finally made into a live action show, and no one asked for it, but they did it anyways. Uh, John Cho is playing Spike Spiegel, and he they Cowboy Bebop has always been this like gritty noir, with some humor in there, but mostly just this like cool action scene, like TV show, sci-fi. The whole thing is it just oozed cool all around, and they're leaning into the comedy aspect and more or less the slapstick, variety of comedy. Um, and they're doing a really bad job at it. Um, and this is just like they do a good homage opening cutscene to the original trailer, but then they start throwing in all the villains in there for all the fanboys, being like, see, you remember this guy? He was from that one episode, and here's the villain from this other episode here, and here's another villain, and it's just all they're trying to do is get the fanboy satisfied and get them amped, and I just I was thoroughly, thoroughly disappointed in this. I knew it was going to be bad, but I just didn't expect it to be this bad. But it was just, yeah, it's just like, man, I really, for a brief moment, I thought maybe you can pull something out. No.
This feels like somebody watched Cowboy Bebop one time a year ago, didn't understand anything about it except that they thought it was cool, and then immediately set about working on making this live action series. This this show is an affront to God and man. Like, it is fucking horrible. I I fucking hate this. Up and down, left and right. There's some good things about it. Don't get me wrong. There's some good things about it, but like the core of it is like you watch it and you're like, yeah, you didn't get it at all. You didn't really understand anything that Cowboy Bebop was about. So Cowboy Bebop, like the opening theme is called Tank. So Tank is it is a big band jazz song. That's the genre that it belongs to. Jazz is prevalent throughout the whole show in bits and pieces, in various parts. Something about
jazz and blues, yeah, most
jazz and
definitely. And
blues.
that's
Yeah.
this they kept a lot of the same original songs, which that's the best part of this whole show. And then they do some of their own variants and some new stuff specifically for this.
Yeah, they do some new stuff. I've watched through, I think, episode 4 or 5. And they do some new stuff. It doesn't seem to be particularly interesting what I've heard so far. I think I heard like one song where I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of good. That's kind of new and
Don't
good.
even think they do. I don't think it has any tie with the original Yoko Kanno or Seatbelts, which is the band who Yoko Kanno made the songs. Seatbelts is the band that performed it.
She's a composer,
Um,
yeah.
so
I think
that's
I
and
think the
I don't believe there's
Seatbelts
any
are her
connection.
band too. I think she's related to them in some way, like they're her band or something like that. Um, I don't know, but so the thing about jazz that they say is that jazz is about the notes that you don't play. And if you watch Cowboy Bebop, and you have a brain, then you realize that a lot of Cowboy Bebop is them not saying things. There's a whole lot of what's called subtext in the show, in the original animated show. They let you wonder about things. They let you figure things out. They let things be a surprise. They let things be mysterious. But this show just fucking hits you in the face with it like a pie. Just this, it's just, they just fucking fling it right out there. Jet, like, okay, so I'm going to get into spoilers for all the shows. So this is your warning. So Jet has a kid, and in the
Never
original,
stated in the original.
well, they do say it, but it's like his episode that he figures it out, but it's like in the middle of the show. And in this show, they make him like a dad that gets divorced, and he has a kid, and he has to get a doll for it, and it's like
so annoying.
it's so stupid. And then, so I didn't even know this.
I need to get her a doll, and I need the woolongs for that doll. You're gonna tell me that my daughter doesn't get to have? I'm like, that was so fucking irritating.
Yeah, that was incredibly irritating. Um, I didn't. So I just recently watched Cowboy Bebop, the animated or the anime. Like, I had just finished watching the final episode and the movie. I'd watched all of it. So all of this is painfully fresh in my mind at how good the original series is. And then I came straight into this. Like, and in the original series, they show you like one frame of Vicious and Julia in bed together. And you don't like, I couldn't even remember that I had seen that. I don't think I even saw that the first time I watched the show. I just noticed it this time. And I was like, oh, Julia and Vicious were a thing before she met Spike. That's cool. That adds like a layer of like enmity between these two characters. But in this show, it's like I'm just gonna fucking like show you that they're a thing, still
Well,
for some reason.
okay, so that's all right. Here's the bit. Um, so that's where the whole fight comes into play is because Vicious and Julia were together. Spike comes in, and more or less he was wounded. She takes care of him. They fall for each other, and then because of that, because they fall for each other, Vicious then goes after Spike. Um, and that's why Spike disappears. He fights his way out. He disappears. Julie's on the run, so she's on the run in the series. But this one, all right, the whole Vicious as a character, he is he's like death incarnate. Like they make him this menacing, just like I don't know. He's overall this just overwhelming force that no one can handle. And what they do is they portray him in this live action version as a fucking pissant. Like he is just this little nothing. Um, if he is as the original Vicious is psychotic in nature, and I'm going to use Gary Oldman in the Professional. Leon. So as that crazy moment, the calm little moments before the storm, it's like he's just this fucking chaotic person. But then he switches over from Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element, where he's just doing the bidding of those above him, and he's just this fucking whiny little bitch of a guy. I'm like, Vicious was never even introduced until later, and they throw him right away in like episode was it 2, maybe even episode 1, but I know episode 2 they throw him in right there, and I'm like, really, you don't need to be showing him this early, and it's I don't know, their whole portrayal of him is just like, no, dude, you are not scary, you are not menacing, you are just a whiny little child.
You kind of took the
And
words right out of my mouth because I was as I was watching this. That's probably the biggest, the most egregious crime that this show has committed so far amongst its many atrocities is what they do to Vicious, and that is just ruin him. He's just fucking ruined. Like you're totally right. In the anime, he was barely used. You were terrified of him. He was really cool. He only spoke when he absolutely needed to. He's only in a couple episodes, and he's right there at the end because he is a perfect foil to Spike. He is Spike's equal essentially, but evil instead of good. Uh, it's incredible. Like whenever they started, like they have him just become this complete pathetic pissant, and he's he's weak. He's a flabby dick, and it's only so that Spike in the TV show, in the Netflix show, can look kind of cool. Like, oh, so now Spike gets to look kind of cool because John Cho can't make Spike look cool on his own.
I mean, I honestly don't think any actor could like. That's why this is the problem. Is you could. I can't think of any actor who could actually play Spike the way you would envision him from in the anime. Um, and now this show. I guess the best way to explain this show as a whole is for anyone who's ever seen a live action Japanese drama of like a manga or something like that. Especially if it's a girls manga or something like that, where it's overly edited and like flowery, or the camera pans in stupid ways. Like there's there's an old TV show with one of the old Johnny's members from Tokyo called My Boss My Hero, and they do certain things that are just crazy edits. Essentially, it's a high school or a mob boss who's like in his late 20s, who never graduated high school, and so his dad's like, you got to graduate high school because you're dumb as crap, and if you don't graduate high school you can't become the new boss. So now he's pretending to be like a 17-year-old or 18-year-old or some shit like that, and everyone, even it's like everyone's in on the joke essentially because all the teachers are like, wait a minute, you're what? Like you can't be. And then but they do a lot of these comic things that are super silly, um like he's the school makes a pudding that everyone wants, so that they literally, the lunch bell rings, everyone runs down the hallway, and he's a huge fan of, well, it's pudding, it's flan, and he's trying to get there, and he's about to get it, and it's like the comical things that people actual this is live action, people climbing over each other to try to get to it, and the way this is edited and filmed reminds me of Cowboy Bebop, and but except for that's in My Boss My Hero, it's great because you're getting what you expect. Cowboy Bebop, on the other hand, is not what you expect, and you shouldn't be getting this at all. I mean, you're getting all these really odd choices of just visual design, and even the bank robber scene in episode one. I'm like, it's like they're just making it, they're just hamming it up just for the sake of hamming it. um they blow a hole in the side of a ship in space, and then they're all getting sucked out, and so of course Spike or somebody hits a slot machine on the way out and it's spinning, and then the next thing you know they're holding on for dear sweet life, and I'm like, oh, at least, and I told the guy next to me, my buddy, I'm like, at least they didn't do the 777 gag. And then quite a bit later, like, it should have already hit 777, but like they're struggling, they're trying to stay holding on to each other, and all of a sudden they pan back, and sure enough, it hits 777, and all these coins are flying out through the hole. They're like, oh, we're getting hit by these coins. I'm gonna fall out of. I'm losing my grip, and I'm about to fall through the hole in space. I'm like, really? Like, these are these are slapstick moments that just don't belong, and even their portrayal of characters in general. Um, my buddy, who's usually more everything that he says is good is usually okay by my standards because he has a lower tolerance, or higher tolerance. His bar is set lower, is what I meant to say, for a lot of entertainment. So he'll accept more things than I will, and he's just like, he was super upset with the way they introduced Faye. Faye Valentine introduced straight up as a bounty hunter. They started giving backstory. They try to give backstory, way more backstory to people that don't need it, like the first bounty in episode one of the anime of Cowboy Bebop. You're going after the whole Bloody Eye. It's like I can't remember. It's like Carlos or something, and like can't remember her name.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so like they do a shot for shot reenactment of him getting juiced up on the drugs, and like his whole red vision with bloody eye and stuff, which was a neat little recreation, almost like shot for shot. Like, okay, that was a fun homage. And then they make her his accomplice, this woman, uh be this rich girl who's on the run as well, and like they never say anything about her in the anime, not a single thing. She's just his accomplice. She wants to have a better life. She wants to run away with her boyfriend to Mars, and that's her dream. uh and when at the very end, when they're trying to escape, they have Faye just shoot him dead, just murder him. And as they're trying to as her as the two bounties are trying to escape, and then they have it end the same way it does in the anime, where she drives into the blockade, and the blockade of cops gun her down. Now, how it ends in the anime is, as her and her boyfriend are escaping, she realizes he's a lost cause. He is not going. They can't escape. He's completely lost his mind. He's done too many. He's done too many of these drugs, and she can't get the guy that she loves back. There's no happy end for them. There's no future, and he's literally now he's currently on these drugs, and he's just fried. And so she
Yeah, because
shoots him.
he's. Oh yeah. So in the anime,
She blows him away in the anime. She
yeah,
literally, as Spike's pulling up to try to intercept them, he's flying. She blows him away, and you hear the bang, you see the blood in the cockpit, and then she looks over and sees Spike, and then says "Adios, cowboy," and then that's when she goes into the blockade and gets gunned down. Um, and it's like that is a huge tonal shift. um that was an impactful moment, because you're like, geez, this is episode one of an anime. It has this really weird, like, because there are comedy moments in it, don't get me wrong, because Spike runs into her, the female bounty, just because when he bumps into her, he like steals all her food. Essentially, she has a bag full of food, she drops a bunch, and then she's like, wait a minute, like, I'm missing some stuff, and then he pulls out all these things from his pockets, which you can't really do too well on a live action, and he pulls a whole hot dog from his mouth, because anime.
there's
So
ways
yeah, you
around
change
that.
that
Yeah.
stuff. You can change some of that stuff up. That's fine. But it was just like, to actually change how one of those two died, and her her killing her boyfriend was a big impactful moment because it's like she realized that she's not going to get the dream ending she wished. It was her decision to do this, but no, they just had Faye just straight up murder him, from with a rifle from a distance. And it's just like that was pathetic, I guess.
It's it's supremely ironic that the live action TV show is more cartoonish than the anime.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
how the fuck do you do that? There are like just about every scene has the camera view slightly cocked so that it's not perfectly even for no reason. They do that constantly. It's like that's not what that shot is for, idiots. Like, I don't know what you're trying to do, what you're trying to say with that shot, but that shot means something is off, something is wrong here. It means that like they use that in horror movies or scary movies to show that something is wrong here, and they don't use that properly. I mean, if they were going to do something else with it, then fine, but they just throw it in there because it looks cool, I guess. Every scene looks like a backlot to a set with some CG added in. I will say that the ships do look pretty cool. They did a good job with the CG making the ships look correctly to model. So
Yeah, the swordfish looked really good. They edited that scene kind of weird because when
which
he
scene?
first gets in the swordfish and starts taking off, and you all of a sudden you hear the motorcycle engine. I'm like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden you see it. Then also you see Jet take off the side on a motorcycle. I'm like, oh, okay. The way you edited that was fucking bad because it looked like Spike was, because he has a throttle on the swordfish, just like a motorcycle throttle. And that's true. But then when you have the motorcycle sound, I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then you see Jet leave on an actual bike. You're like, oh, okay. But no, it does look really good. That kind of visual design is neat.
Those are
But yeah, it's
definitely
just,
cool.
I'm just all right. Yeah, that's it. I'm like I said, I wasn't expecting much from it, and yet still somehow let me down.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple more things I have to say. Like the fight
All
scenes
right.
are really slow and nonsensical and overwrought.
Yeah.
They're just painfully slow. They don't make any sense um, about half the time. They're in there just to like they just throw them in there as often as they can. Um, it's to me it looks like a group of fans got what they felt like was an unlimited amount of money to make the show. But then once they actually got to making it, they realized how much it actually costs to make a good TV show. And they just ran out. But like a lot of the sets, you can kind of see, well, that probably came from Walmart. Like this little prop probably came from Kmart and IKEA and stuff like that. It's like the other thing too is that it's like watching a horror movie where all the lights are on the set. So there's no mystery. There's no like, oh, what's going to happen next? Or like, what is this character about? There's none of that. And like the last thing I'll say is that I think that you could have, with this show, the way that I probably would have done it is done one season up to the end of Jupiter Jazz, which is right about the middle of the anime, at least the animated series, not including the movie. I probably would have done that as one season, and then done the last half of the animated season as its separate season. I think that would have given you enough time. And if you don't have enough money to do that or enough whatever to do that, then I would just said, no, not going to do it. But I think that would fit into with the two season preference that Netflix has for shows. And it would have been the best way to properly convey what's going on here. Maybe add a little bit, take out a little bit that you couldn't do and make it work. But
Yeah,
Just
I completely I see what you mean. And I agree with you. It does feel like a fan film. Now, granted, if this was a fan film done back shortly after the anime was released, like say if you did this came out early 2000s, this would have been amazing. Despite it being so different, it would have been much more received positively, I think, by a lot of fans. Now, this, on the other hand, being so far removed, it only gave it only Cowboy Bebop only got stronger as time has gone on because nothing has really taken it from its place. Like, there's not really many things that could rival it as overall fan favorites. Like, you just need to name an anime. Like someone who's not a fan of anime. Hey, what's an anime I can get into? I'm like, boom. This is always top on the list.
Bebop. Yeah.
The only reason why you wouldn't recommend this to someone who wants to get into anime is like they absolutely hate sci-fi and violence or some shit like that, and then you're like, okay, well then I can't show you. Like, I guess Totoro. There you go. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only thing. I mean, this is it aged better because nothing else has. Out of people have tried, but nothing else is this good.
I did.
And
Yeah. I did think of one more
no,
thing, but go ahead.
go for it, man.
I was just gonna say that I was reading around on Reddit and somebody pointed this out. They pointed out that they made such a big stink about desexualizing Faye, which I understand. Like it's a different era and stuff like that. So they desexualize Faye really really hard, and they ramp up the sexualization because I guess you only watched the first two episodes. In the next couple episodes after that, there's like nudity for nudity's sake of like
Okay.
extras and stuff like that. And then they have like a dominatrix thing going on in one part. It's like, why the fuck are you doing this? So they just ramp up everything around the characters. The sexualization is ramped up, and it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? It's nonsense. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea whatsoever. Total
Yeah.
trash.
All right. Well, and then the last thing I've watched, which was just last night, ended up seeing the first episode of Wheel of Time on Prime, and I I've been trying to read this book because a friend of mine has been promoting this book for forever, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this book, series, and the author passed away before the final couple books or final book was released, and then a protege or something like that took over and ran with it for a couple more books, just because like I can't do it all. Like, there was only supposed to be one book left. There's no way I can tie all these loose ends into just one book. I have to make it in a couple. So apparently, it's overall well received by a lot of people. I have the hardest time going through this damn book. Uh, I reread the first uh, the first bit multiple times because it's one of those things that like you read it and then just put it down, never get back to it. And then like a month, months later, okay, let me try this again. All right, I barely remember. All right, let me go start from the beginning. And so I've gone through this like 3 times. And so like now then I'm like, all right, Prime has this series coming out. All right, let's give it a shot. And episode one pretty much covers all of what I've read. I've read a little bit beyond episode one, and um, they take a lot of liberties with this, and they do their own. Do you know anything about the Wheel of Time yourself, Nick?
No, I know it's pretty
Okay,
sprawling, but that's about all I know.
so it's like super high fantasy as far as the way they describe everything in the books. They have um, I would have felt more comfortable just getting a thesaurus or something, not thesaurus, but a glossary, and just reading like the definitions of things, and then being like, all right, so this is all this is, because they throw things at they love this group called the Aes Sedai, and they the amount of times they say Aes Sedai in the book is like just crazy. But they're this order of people that are controlling things, and they're more or less like the Witcher or something. Like they're these high magic users that everyone's like, ooh, like they're high powerful, and they're almost like a myth in a sense. They people know they exist, but the whole story takes place in a mountain country town, like way out in the sticks. No one, you're born, live and die there. That's all you do. And so uh, in the original story, you have this Aes Sedai comes into town, but no one knows that this person's an Aes Sedai. That's the main woman right there. And she comes in with essentially her capable, I don't know, manservant. She's the mage, and he's the tank essentially. He has the sword, and he's the up close fighter. And um, it's the way this is presented is it's like you have these couple kids that are all friends, grew up together in the same town, and this impending evil starts coming into town, comes rolling in, and of course they get swept up into this. Um, so, and that's where you find out that this Aes Sedai is looking for. I honestly don't remember her name anymore, nor do I care. I got so goddamn angry last night. So essentially, it's just the book does a really good job of introducing people and having them nice, and like it's a slow burn, but it's at least they do a better job introducing them. It's like the day-to-day life, and and then how they get caught up into this menace. um and the monsters, I'll give them credit though, in the Prime show here, they do the monsters really well as far as the way they look. They're a mixture between they're animal and man. So think like a minotaur or something along that kind of creature, bipedal, but monstrous, and like fur and horns and stuff like that. And uh, essentially, the show is just the way this Netflix show does is they're just introducing all this extra backstory that doesn't need to belong. A blacksmith who was an apprentice in the book. I'm in this one. He's apparently the blacksmith. And then he's married. He has a wife. I'm like, which he's supposed to be like 21. He has a wife and she's pregnant now. And during this attack where the village just gets sieged by all these monsters, and they make her into a pretty good badass. She's fighting off like her and her husband are like fighting these giant monsters, and they just tore normal people to shreds. And then in the heat of the battle, he finally kills this monster. He's just slamming it with an axe, and then she comes up behind, and then he turns around in the heat of moment and stabs her in the stomach with the axe. And so he not only murders his unborn child, but he murders his wife. And I'm like, really? There was zero need for any of that. It didn't exist, at least not to. Maybe it's in the later books, but not in the beginning of the fuck of what I read. It's like he they make another character who is the flippant character, like he's the easygoing mischievous kid. They make his family into a dysfunctional, like mother's a dysfunctional drunk and the father's a lecherous womanizer kind of deal. And like they're giving these people backstories that aren't necessary, and I'm like, I just think they're there just as filler. I'm like, really? And then at the end, they're like, okay, we won the battle for the day, but literally a horde of monsters are coming. You all need to come with me, and because they're after you, and that's it. And they're like, okay, cool, we're gonna fuck off now. Four main characters off to follow this person just because. Not No other reasoning behind that. Not even She doesn't even give the line of we have to draw them away from the village. Nothing like that. It's like, no, we're just gonna follow you now, and this village is probably gonna get ransacked because we're gonna go in the opposite direction of them, and this village is between us and them. So this village is probably gonna get wrecked, But that's just the way the Prime series ends, or episode 1. And I'm like, I don't know. There's just so much that was fucking wrong. And without having to go by blow details and stuff like that, it was just, I don't know. It's just the main character's love interest. I'm pretty sure he leaves. If I remember correctly, he leaves her behind because she's like they call her wisdom. She's like the medicine woman of the town. She's an apprentice, and he leaves her at first. But of course they have to have a female lead, or another female character, so they pull her in the series too. So it's her, um, the mischievous kid. You have the blacksmith, and then you have the main character he kind of reminds me of Anakin Skywalker. His looks, and his dad figure in the Prime series kind of reminded me of Dooku as well. So I'm like, that was pretty funny. That was like my one enjoyment out of it. I'm like, dude, I turned to my wife. I'm like, he looks like Anakin. and that dude looks like Dooku. She's like, he does. So, um, yeah, it's oh man, it's just not is not doing anything for me. I'm like, in fact, it made me so upset compared to how different it was from the book and just the vibe I got from it. I'm like, I'm just gonna watch more Cowboy Bebop. That's what I got to do.
That's sad when you're at that point.
I mean, I know people like maybe if I had gone through the whole book series or something like that, and or at least the first book in its entirety, I might. And if I grew up on it more, because that's the thing is Cowboy Bebop. I have grew up on that, and then it stayed with me. So I'm willing to go through watch something that's garbage, but it's of its name just out of curiosity. This I'm like, nah, dude, I'm done. I am fucking done with it. This killed like my attempt for the series. I've been trying it for my buddy. I'm like, I know you're really into this. I'll give it a shot. I'll keep on trying. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm done. If this series can't even get me into it, I'm like, I might read the book just to get the taste of this out of my mouth. But it's one of those things. I'll just read book one, and unless if book one ends amazingly, we're like, I gotta pick up two. I'm never gonna pick up the rest of the series. It's just a waste of time. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
this show whenever it came out, whenever I saw they were making it, and I didn't really watch a trailer. I don't think even for it, but something about the way that just the pictures that I saw from it, I was like, and because I saw it was from Amazon. Amazon's made some good shows, but for some reason I was just like, I just don't have any faith that this show will be any good. Also, there's like 10 books, and they're like 400 to 500 pages each, and I just have no faith that they can do this justice in a reasonable amount of time. I mean, that sounds like 10 seasons to me, and how many shows actually make it to 10 seasons? You know, I mean,
see, now I'll admit that I'm suffering from the fact that I read this is I'm very critical of things that I read first and watch the thing of second. Um, it's the reason why I don't mind the first handful of Harry Potters, and then when it comes to about movie five is when I finally caught up. I started reading the books, and so by the time movie five came out, I'm like, no, dude, this is bad. And that's because I automatically have that comparison because I'm like, oh, I know what the book is now. So maybe if I never read the book, and if you're coming in fresh off this stuff, but um, I just the fact that they're changing character motivations, character at least that I'm feeling that way. You know, once again, maybe there's more backstory to in the books to the characters that they're already they're alluding to it right now. They're just like we're gonna cut the fluff, get to the stuff. We're pulling stuff from later things right now, and we're just throwing it in there. Maybe, but I don't know. It's just it just bothered me.
yeah,
I was so fucking mad. I was literally just I was few. I got after watching it. I was just like I got to do something else. I couldn't fucking. I was just pissed. I was like, this is a waste of my fucking time. Um.
it's too bad.
So yeah,
I wasn't planning on watching it, but I definitely won't now. Uh,
all right,
Thinking
and
away.
well, it's relevant because I literally after this went back to playing the game that I've been playing for the last on and off for the last week and a half, which was I got around to Far Cry 6. Um. So no, literally, I afterwards like, dude, I gotta do something. I'm just I'm not going to go to bed after watching that. And so I got Far Cry 6. I'm playing it on my PlayStation 4 Pro. Uh, the library, I reserved this a long time ago, and the library finally got a hold of me and said, "Hey, we got this in, and it's your number came up." I'm like, "Sure, I'll give this a shot." So, have you ever played any of the Far Cry games?
Yeah, actually, at your house in Japan, I played Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
Okay.
That was pretty fun for an afternoon. But yeah, the Far Cry games, they interested me back then, but and I think I have a few of them from Steam sales, but they've never trumped anything else enough for me to want to play them at that moment. But are you liking this one all right?
All right. So I played three then the Far Cry 3, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, and 4. So I skipped 5 altogether, and so now I'm going to 6. I've been liking it so far. Um, they do a few things that are a bit different. and one of which is which I have a problem with is getting rid of the skill tree. So in Far Cry games, well, since three at least, I can't. I barely played two. I don't really remember that, and one I didn't actually like. Um, so the you what you do is you end up getting you kill things, gain experience, and then you can go down skill trees and upgrade your character accordingly. You have the ability to then stealth kill multiple people or death from above. So if you drop down on them, you can murder people that way. Just a lot of different better ways to murder people. You can upgrade your physical abilities and better swimming, running, things like that. So that was always a fun thing for me. I liked being able to do these incremental things and slowly level up my character. They pretty much killed all that right out the gate. They What they do is they give you a lot of these abilities right away. They unfortunately don't tell you any of that, so you can at least very quickly do a chain kill. So meaning like if you have three soldiers walking in a row, you can stab the dude in the back and then just literally press up on the thumbstick to then roll into the next stab to roll into the next stab. And that's usually late game unlock you'd get. Uh, the only reason why you kind of know that is when you're in the middle of doing it, it'll have a prompt, and I'm like, oh, okay. Or it doesn't tell you things like the death from above or anything like that. While the other game, you'd leveled yourself up, you'd have a little tutorial explanation thing, and you're like, okay, now I know what this new ability is. So they kind of give you a lot of these things, and they don't tell you any of it, which is a disappointment, I think, in that front. And then a lot of other skills are everything's about equipments and loadouts now. So you can equip different gear, and that might enable you to have new skills. Like if you wear a pair of gloves, that gives you the grenade takedown, which means you can come up behind an enemy, pull their pin of the grenade, push them forward, and then they'll explode. That was always a perk that you could upgrade later on in the Far Cry 3 and 4. And so that was, but that's strictly with when you wear a pair of gloves. And a lot of the other stuff is now it's all about buying getting guns and then equipping loadouts like buying different type of ammo, armor piercing rounds, soft rounds, depending on, and then you're supposed to be specking and having things set up for the um, incursion you're about to go into. So I'm like, oh, that's more busy work than fun, in my opinion, because generally speaking, I think they were trying to get away from their I never since I didn't play five, I can't say how much of this had already changed in five, and this is just like, oh, we were bringing this over from five instead. So to me, some things that are brand new might have already been actually done already. Um, but they were getting criticized a lot for doing the whole Assassin's Creed and thing where it's a Ubisoft game. You climb a tower, then you have to look around, and that was Far Cry 3 and 4. You'd scope out the area, you start mapping things out, and you're like, okay, that's where different base camps are. Um, well, you don't have any of that to do this time around, and the this area is actually it's a really big map, I think. Um, and they give you it's almost too much.
Really?
I think it's just yeah, it's well they start you on this island and I'm like, okay, this is a nice little starter island. Okay, I wonder how big the map is. So the starter map is in this little corner, this little island, and then all of a sudden you zoom out and it's like, wait a minute, you got like this whole upper, like 2/3 of is all land mass. And I was like, holy crap, you know. So I tried getting to um I watched like I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to spend my you don't level up like you would in a normal Far Cry game because there's, the levels mean differently. So you have to do certain objectives that gain you experience, and then your level that you do increase lets you increase your mods and the things you can buy and make for your weapons. So I'm like, all right, well, I want to be able to upgrade to get a scope. So I'm like, all right, well, I can either do that or they have a lot of these unique weapons that you can find that have custom loadouts already, preset. And I'm like, all right. So I quick looked up just a video of like, all right, what are some of the good presets? And then there's the one that's like, okay, well, when you can, if you're all the way on the high level area, you can sneak your way. You can just take a boat around and sneak your way in. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'll get this decent starter weapon for the start. I'm like, all right, sure. Driving a boat it took me like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes just to get around
Oh,
on this boat. It took forever. I was just like, holy Christ. I'm just in there just driving this boat, being like, mm-hmm. But they have radio, and on the radio, every now and then when a song hits in, certain songs, your main character, which can be either male or female, name is Danny, Dani, um, and this takes place in a fake Cuba, essentially, um, because like every Far Cry, well,
yeah. I
uh,
heard it takes place in like fake Cuba, but basically Cuba.
yeah, it's Cuba pretty much. And because just like Far Cry 4 was like a fake Tibet, um, and 3 was a fake place in off the coast of Bangkok, somewhere in Thailand, just a made up islands. Um, and so there's a lot of you got a lot of Spanish songs, or like like they have the whole the Cuban jazz kind of stuff, and but every now and then something would come up, and all of a sudden your main character will start singing to the song, and I'm like, that's pretty funny. I like he's just jamming away, just singing the whole lyrics to the entire song. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that.
Okay.
um Granted, I don't understand a thing he's saying, but I'm because I don't speak Spanish, so that's fine. But that's actually where the baby tigre uh thing from your intro came in, because the main landmass has three different sections, and you're supposed to make friends with the three groups that are rebelling against the main forces. And one of them is like the old guard from like they tried doing a revolution back in like 67, and so that's them that are still alive. They're like, yeah, we're still here. And so one of them keeps on calling your main character a boy, and he's like, I'm not a boy. And he's like, yeah, it's like, and his name is he's the general or whatever. He's like El Tigre. He's like, of course you're not a boy. Like you're baby Tigre. And I'm like, that's pretty funny. Um, so that was it's like, but I just spent the entire time just fucking going around this entire island just to sneak in to grab a gun. And I found myself a couple presets, and I'm like, what? I'm never gonna bother. You have a couple weapon slots, which the other games made you could only hold one weapon at a time, and then you'd have to hunt animals to skin them to then get to build an upgrade for another holster. So then you can have two weapons, then three, and then four. Um, so this one gives you the ability to hold four weapons right off the bat. Three weapons plus a sidearm. Um, so yeah, I'm like, all right, that's because of almost any scenario you come into, you'll need one soft target rounds for people who are unarmored, armor piercing rounds, and then something for heavy, or a sniper or something like that. So like this game just throws you into it a little too hard, too fast. I think it's not. I just didn't. There's something about the progression system that I'm just feeling like it's lacking, and that's it's kind of disappointing. I'm still playing and I'm still having a good time. I just kind of miss the way they did it before. And once again, this might have all been done in Far Cry 5, and so I'm like, oh, this is maybe old hat. I guess I'm complaining about something that's been around for a bit. I don't know. Um, but I just really, like the main draw to this one is the bad guy. In this is the El Pollo Loco dude from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I can't remember the actual actor's name. Um,
Giancarlo Esposito. I think that's his
sure,
name.
that is a name I recognize. I'm just terrible with names and faces. So but he's essentially the dictator of this new land, and the whole reason why this land is important to be in is because apparently they've been able to take tobacco leaf, infuse it with chemicals, and it turns the leaf from green to red, and therefore is now the cure for cancer. Um,
Okay.
so they are now producing this cure for cancer, but at the same time, the actual chemicals they're using to transmutate the tobacco is actually killing their own workers, and he's also then like making everyone into like enslaving his own people to work these fields. So yeah, it's kind of he's just normal dictator stuff, I guess. Um, and they completely kill like any like there's no real reason you're there. Your guy just wanted to escape to go to America. That's right in the beginning. It's like you've been drafted. There's now a draft going on, and you're like, yeah, you had done your stint in the military, and now you and your buddy is trying to go to Miami, as they keep on saying. I'm like, and I yeah, I'm like, all right,
Bienvenidos
they're
en
trying to go,
Miami.
and the this all I gotta say is Will Smith's song would have been much different if they said Miami. Uh, so you don't remember that one? Okay, anyways.
What song are you thinking of?
Isn't it Will Smith? Let's see.
You're thinking of
Oh,
Bienvenidos en Miami?
no.
Because that was a song by a guy named Rico Suave.
um, let's see. It's yeah, Will Smith. The song Miami.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know that song.
yeah. I
I
was like,
guess.
you made me think I was going crazy for a second. Okay. Anyways,
How's it go, Joe?
yeah. I'm not gonna fucking sing the song. I barely remember anything about it.
See, I think that's
I just
fake news. I don't think it exists because
yeah.
you can't even sing it. What? How am I supposed to believe that's
I would
real?
hit play, but only my recording would record the YouTube there. Uh, so, all right. What happens is the moment you get off the tutorial island and you're at their base, the rebel base camp. They're like, here's your boat, like we promised. You're free to go. You're our best guerrilla fighter, and and blah blah blah. Like we just got you, and then he turns to the dude, the guy next to her, like, does that always work? He's like, 50-50, this pep talk, and
Some good jokes
so
in there.
yeah, yeah, I know, right? They already know that. So I jump in the boat and I just drive away. I
So
just drove and
go ahead.
oh yeah, well I figured they had to have a hidden joke ending because Far Cry 4 has become kind of infamous for the fact that they have the secret ending right away in the beginning of the game.
Oh
So
yeah, Far Cry 4. You could like go in and you could just leave or something like that, or you could kill him.
so he asks you to wait at this dinner table because you get picked up by Pagan Min, Troy Baker's character,
Yeah.
and the dictator there, and he's just like, yeah, just I got some stuff to take care of. I'll be right back. And so he leaves, and you have to wait there for like 5 or 10 whole minutes, just waiting there, doing nothing while you're hearing this guy get tortured in the background, just screaming, and you're just sitting at this dinner table. And then eventually he comes back. He's like, yeah, sorry for the wait. We just had some rebels we had to crush, and all right, and then he takes you to your mother's, or like the burial ground, and then you can just put your mother's ashes here, and then that the game ends. That's it.
It's
Credits
over.
roll, and I forget what song plays in the background of that one, but then so this one I'm like, all right, they have to have something similar, and he's like, I'm going to Miami, blah blah blah. Here's my boat, and he makes the comment when you look at it. I'm like, I wonder if this thing will probably break down halfway there, and so I look at the map. I'm like, okay, if I leave here, I head west, and that looks like there's no landmass, so I'm gonna just go that way. And as I'm starting to go there, eventually it just fades to black. Next thing you see, you're on the beach, and you're just on the beach reclined in the sun and listening to this radio talk about how the rebels were crushed, and blah blah blah, and it's like in the country of Yara, and it's like, okay, now let's do, like, let's listen to something, or change it to something else, and then they play Congo
Conga.
from yeah, kind of. I'm like, you know what? That's a good song for them to just kick it off, and then the credits roll, and then I let the credits roll, and the credits rolled for like, I don't know, like I want to say like 20 minutes, dude. Those credits are insanely long. It is
Dude,
sick.
it's a huge company making that game full steam for like 4 years.
Ubisoft, I know that they have like, like every you have, was it at least a half dozen to a dozen different places around the world that handle your shit, but it's just like, holy crap, man. And then they have a fast forward, like you can hold the thumbstick down and it'll scroll faster, and I'm just holding it down. And then at one point I left to go grab something from the kitchen, came back. It's just like, I
Is it
wanted to see
still
if anything
playing?
happened at the end.
It's still playing in the room.
There's literally a skip button, but I was just like, no, I'm gonna give it due
No.
service. I'm just gonna let it go all the way to the bottom. Yeah, it was super funny.
If I love a game, if I really love a game, I'll let this credits play almost as a weird ritual of honor, to let them play all the way through. But these days, I was gonna ask, how's the loop in this game? Is it a pretty fun loop? Like you get the guns and you kill the people and you go through the thing and then you get the guns. Is that how it goes?
Yeah. Okay. The old loop would be you go to a base, you clear out the base, you then, you gain experience from that, but then you're taking control points along the way. This one has a lot of areas that are uh you can infiltrate, they're restricted areas, and unfortunately you can't actually seize them. You can murder everyone in there, but you can't actually take it over.
Hmm.
They're forever going to be restricted areas, and I'm like, because I spent a good, I don't know, 15 minutes in this one spot trying, like, the enemies would start respawning in my area. I'd murder them, and then someone else would pop up. I'd go murder him, and I'm like, why isn't this letting me take control? And I had to look it up, and they're like, yeah, it's if it's on the map and if it's a dotted line, they're forever not controllable. I'm like, that's really dumb because I liked being able to seize control across the landscape. Um, so that's part of the thing that I found it to be a letdown. Um, I think that as a the I guess so the fun part about this is it gives you, you now have an ultimate. So like Overwatch or something like that, you end up having this special ability that's on a cooldown timer, and it literally feeds off the blood of your enemies. So that's what the guide, that's what the guy who makes it describes to you. He's like, so if you kill more people, it'll recharge quicker. Essentially, is how it works.
Okay.
And the first one you do is you get this this handmade rocket launcher backpack. It has like 6 tubes on it, and then you just like hunch over, and it just launches a bunch of them. There's no real targeting with it; it's just kind of blind fire, but it's good for taking out helicopters and tanks, which they throw at you like right away, surprisingly. So what happens is uh, the loop, I guess, is you go out, you're doing these, taking over some of the locations, but for me, it's more of an exploratory find. You end up finding these, like, different things like treasures and stuff like that, where they have a little bit of flavor text to the story, and you're like, okay, there are a diamond on your icon, so I'll go there to check out what's going on, and then you read like this one spot where this this one girl's quinceanera is going on, and her parents got taken away right before it happened. And so she's like, I don't care anymore. I was like, my parents are gone. I know, so one of the family members said I should still go through it because they put so much effort to it, but I don't care. And so your character's like, well, let me check out what's in here. Like, what kind of party did they throw? And then you're finding a note saying, like, from the parents being like, yeah, it cost us thousands just to even get this warehouse to set up the party. And so she's like, yeah, you have to have the music and the lights. And so as it's like each one of these treasures is like a puzzle, like a really weak puzzle. You just have to find the levers and knobs to flip and to unlock.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a giant warehouse or it's a warehouse that they ended up having spotlights, bubble machine, like floor disco like panel lights, and so you're flipping and like, this was going to be a really decent party for her. And then you finally hit the master button, and all of a sudden, like, confetti and shit blows up, and then the door opens and there's a horse, and the horse has a number 15 on its hindquarters spray painted, and it has like a unicorn head mount. And so that was going to be her 15th birthday gift for her party, is this unicorn, quote unquote unicorn. And so, like, you just take it. You're like, okay, it's mine now. And so now I have this horse forever in my stables.
That's
So
fun.
yeah, it was just, you find, I found a different treasure where this guy's talking about, like, you all thought I was crazy, but I finally captured it. It's like, I tried putting my house up on stilts, that didn't work. I tried doing this, like putting a gate fence around, that didn't work, but I caught it. And like, now I gotta go burn it. I gotta go get some gasoline so I can burn this thing down. And they're like, what? And then you're coming around the corner and you read a different note, and it turns out this dude was terrorized by a mongoose, like a super mongoose.
Isn't that a thing in these games? I feel like there's the mongoose in, or maybe it was the honey badger
It's a honey badger, number 4.
in
It was the
four.
fucking honey badger.
There's
Yeah.
always something in these games that's this animal that is incredibly ferocious.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is you hunt these animals, and there's always these rare variants of these animals. Um and so that was the uh in Far Cry 4, there is actually a guy who was, I think the trophy was like something like a fashion. I'm trying to remember the name of the country now. Karat or something like that. It was a Karat Fashion Week, I think it was called, and he's this clothing designer, and he wants you to kill these rare animals so he can make a nice effective a flashy but functional outfit for you. And whenever you created give you like more ammo you can carry or more this or that. And so that's you ended up killing these rare animals for him. And of course some of them you'd have to hunt with certain weapons, and that provided a challenge. But also you just be minding your own business, trying to sneak up on some guys, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you just start getting mauled by something that just jumps out at you. And Far Cry 3 was notorious for that. And they had these ostrich-like birds, and I can't remember what they're called. They're it starts with a C, but it's like they're just these mean ass ostriches, essentially, is what they were. And they would just murder you, and then you start running away from them, and they'd just be chasing after you in the Far Cry 3. And it's just like, and then you start running after, and then all of a sudden another animal would catch you'd run across their path, and you'd have multiple animals herding after you. So that game was that was a fun, unexpected bit. This one, the
It's
animals
cool.
aren't as vicious or as ferocious.
Probably
Though
probably for the best, honestly.
I think it was. I think they were fine, but also it caused more chaos because you were able to get meat and then throw them in the bases or throw them by the enemies, and it would lure the animals out there, so you can cause a natural diversion. So the guards would then start aiming at that, but it wouldn't set off any alarms because they're just after a normal animal. Um, so that was that way another way to do stuff stealthily to take over a place. But for the animals in this one, the big key thing is they did this. This one I do know they did in Far Cry 5 is they give you animal companions. And this one they call them amigos. And the first one you get is a giant alligator wearing a leather jacket called Guapo. Uh,
Yeah, I've heard of Guapo. Yeah.
yeah, so Guapo is pretty cool. And then there's you'll get a little Dotson later. You can unlock him. It's a little Dotson with in a wheelchair. So his hind legs are hooked up to a wheelchair, and his name is Churro.
Okay.
Uh,
Cool. That's cute.
um, apparently you'll get Boom Boom from who's the dog from Five. You can unlock him, and I just got this panther, which I can't remember its name now, but I did this other like um there's a ancient shrine that I got 3 diamonds from, or 3 treasures, and I brought it there, and then I had to fight this panther, and then essentially it became my familiar, it became my friend. And I also got this really cool that the arsenal that you have on your the back, those ultimates are called supremos. So the I got a new Supremo, and I also got a new Resolve, which is essentially a special weapon. And so I got all 3 of them for doing this treasure hunt that they give you. They give you this mission right away in the beginning. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. It seems to be pretty OP. And but he goes like, yeah, I'm not a cat person, but maybe a giant ghost cat, I'm okay with. And yeah, so this panther, he'll murder someone, and then they'll just poof into smoke,
Mm,
and I'm like, what the hell? So, yeah,
that's pretty
I
funny.
I think it causes fear around other people, so that's because one of the other guards like freaked the hell out, and then I just stabbed him from behind as he was freaking out, so it worked. Um, so yeah, these animals there's no fear of them dying permanently. They will go down, and then after a while, after enough time, they'll revive themselves. Um, so yeah, this game is fun. It's not as good as others, but it is scratching that itch for just if you want an open world sandbox, kind of just to murder in. Um, like I said, unfortunately, I just think a lot of the game designs are limiting. They don't explain enough for you. I wish they would have uh, just gone in a little more in depth here and there, just a little more explanation because uh, a lot of the vehicles you unlock, uh, I thought you had to drive them to back to your home base because it says you got to drive them to a certain destination, and then you can drop them off, and they'll be added to your inventory. Turns out you have a phone. You can just scan the damn thing, just look
Oh,
at it through it, and then it adds it to your inventory. I'm like, oh, what the hell, dude? It would have made things so much simpler. So yeah, I don't know. The game is fun. If you want a simple open world game to play in, uh, this is okay. Like I said, I avoided 5 because of all that political backlash, and like they pretended to be all high and mighty with the militia, and then they're like, "Psych, we're not doing the militia stuff." And then they came out with that the New Dawn, Far Cry 5 New Dawn, was it New Dawn? Where it was like Rage 2 kind of, it was like all painted spray paint colors and um yeah, I had no interest in it. I just kind of though having a companion bear called Cheeseburger did make it sound interesting.
Yeah, yeah. The
So,
animals' names are always pretty popular.
but yeah, that was it, man. That's been the game I've been playing. It's been easy to pick up, put down at any given time. But you've been playing some other stuff though yourself, right?
I have. I started playing this game. It's called Cats and Soup, and I have it playing on the screen right now. Um, so it is an Android game and an iOS game. It is a clicker idle game, and all it is just cats making soup. There's one soup ladler with a cat pot of soup in the middle, and then and then you get more cats and more cats. Some cats make chop cabbage for the soup. Some cats chop carrots for the soup. Um, and then of course the cats need uh, recreation, so they have like a trampoline, and they have a palm tree with a radio under it. There's even a pond that you can get, and you can go fishing, and you can feed the cats fish and level them up. It's a painfully cute game, and the
I thought you said it was cats in soup. Is
no,
when I first came across. So I was just like, wait. And then now that you pulled it up, I'm like, okay, this is very different than I thought it had in my mind. All right.
it's cats and soup. And it's pretty new. I think it said it was new whenever I was looking at it on Android on the Google store. There's even a field of flowers for the cats to frolic in. It's a small field. It's a clicker. It's free to play. You can spend fucking ridiculous amounts of money on it if you want. I haven't spent anything on it. I am not planning on it. But it's very addictive. I find myself clicking on it and going to play it pretty often. For being an idle game, it's pretty active. There's quite a bit to do. I recently got a spotlight, and there will be um, a hot air balloon with gold that a cat pilot will fly over, and you have to spot it with the spotlight, which is just all it is just clicking on the hot air balloon multiple times before it leaves the area. So you spot it with the spotlight, click on it, and then it drops the gold. You get the gold and level up and whatever and stuff like that. But you can dress up your cats and earn stuff for their room. That one on the screen right now has an afro. It's just that you can name the cats. Just a super cute game. I'm pretty much addicted to it right now. Super fun. But so I've been playing that in my free time, but also been playing a old game. I've been playing Bayonetta, the original Bayonetta 1. I've been playing it on Steam, so it's the remaster. It's a really good
Okay.
remaster. Did you play Bayonetta when it came out?
I played it barely. It wasn't for me because uh, I like to try to play those action was it stylish action as a lot of people call them games but I'm not really that good at them, especially with the combo system. I played the first two Devil May Cries and I got the job done, but I was never like proficient at it. So that's why when Bayonetta came out, I gave it a little shot, and I'm like, this isn't really for me, at least not at that time. I know people who just absolutely love the games and are really skilled at it. Um, but
Yeah.
this is that the witch who has the clothing of hair, correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's Bayonetta.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So I started playing this, and it wasn't. So whenever you start playing it, it gives you um, levels of difficulty: normal, easy, and very easy. and that's all it gives you at the beginning. I don't know if there's a hard mode, but the normal starts out easy enough, and I was like, okay, this feels like a normal. But I got like to like chapter 6 or 7, and I got into this one hallway where I had to defeat these two twin monsters twice. So I had to beat them both once, and I had to do it again. And I finally beat it. I did it like 15, 20 times of dying, more than that probably, maybe like 30 or 40. It was incredible how many times I died. But I finally beat them, and then they popped up again. And I was like, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. So I had to move it down to easy. And since then, it's been just way too easy. Like it's been a cakewalk. I've died a couple times, but barely at all, you know. Um, and I don't know. I don't know if their normal is like a joke and they're just trying to fuck with you, or if they really think it is normal and they have a hard difficulty that's going to open up later. But this remaster is really good. I mean, it came out several years ago with Vanquish at the time, but it's a really good little remaster. Everything's up-resed, and it feels really nice. Bayonetta still plays well. I really enjoyed a lot of it. The this game is just pure style. Like there's not really anything to it. It's just hey, this is cool. This is a cool thing that we can do. It's ridiculous. It's over the top, and it's a ton of fun. The story is sort of whatever kind of nonsense, but they do give you like these grimoires, these tomes that you can read through, and they kind of do a lot of the fill in for the backstory of the world that you're in.
Okay.
So if you want to, you can go and read through those. But
So how far are you on this one now?
I'm very close to beating it. I wanted to be able to beat it before the podcast, but I didn't have enough time. They say it's like a 9 to 11 hour game, and I think I am about I don't know, 9.5 hours in, and I think I'm on the last tower area. It feels like the very end of the game to me, so I'll probably beat it today if I have some time to play some games. But it's a good game. It still holds up. I'm looking forward to playing Bayonetta 2 on the Switch.
That was going to be my next question. Is I was wondering if you were going to try to play 2 and then hopefully get that one done before the third came out, or has it already come out? I actually don't remember.
It has not come out. They're thinking there's no release date for it yet, but since they did have a legitimate showing of it at the last Nintendo Switch Nintendo Direct, they are thinking that it's going to be probably Q3 of 22, so next year.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what they're thinking right now. But I mean, I don't know. To me, I don't know. That's probably, if people are thinking that, there's probably a reason for it. I would think they would want to get it out before the end of the tax year, just kind of knowing kind of how they like to do things. But you never know. Either way, I'm gonna play Bayonetta 2 coming up probably in I don't know, it's somewhere in the future, but hopefully before March even, so I can get it all wrapped up, because it's not a very long game either. But I want to get it wrapped up so I'm ready for Bayonetta 3 whenever it comes out, because I think it's really worthwhile. Very, very fun game. I've enjoyed it a lot. Short and sweet.
That's cool. All right. So now I guess with that, you pulled some news for us today.
Yeah,
And
I did.
so yeah, lay it on me, man. What's new in the world?
So yeah, I'm gonna have to click away from my control center so I can navigate the news. So just let me know if everything goes to hell. The most interesting thing I saw from this past week, this actually came out yesterday. Bloomberg was reporting that Sony has a, how do I word this? I'll just read the headline. Sony's Spartacus could be PlayStation's answer to Xbox Game Pass. So Sony is going to put out a thing they think that is like Xbox's Game Pass, um, and it's going to be. I read through the article. It's basically going to be combining their PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now into a thing that's going to be similar to Game Pass. Though when I read through this, it sounded like it's not really going to be as good. Uh, it sounded like it's really not going to be quite as good to me. But yeah, so people have been saying that, yeah, they're probably going to do something like this. I didn't really think that they would. I thought they were just going to keep right on going with what they had. But have you heard anything like this prior to this announcement?
I haven't heard anything about Spartacus itself. I thought the logical thing would to roll up there now, PlayStation Now, which is their streaming service. If they were to just bundle that with, their online membership, that would have been the no-brainer thing to do to try to make it, comparable to. I don't think they would do the PC stuff that Xbox is doing with the Game Pass, but I figured they would at least do the PlayStation Now and their PlayStation Plus membership and combine that together. That's kind of what I would, you'd hope for, and you would think that'd be the smart move to do. But yeah, that would also have to be. I don't know. Sony's really slow for changes sometimes, like when it comes to that type of stuff. So, I was one of those things that would suit what you hope. Honestly, I wasn't expecting anything anytime soon though. So this is kind of exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is pretty exciting. I doubt that it's just kind of knowing the headspace that Sony seems to be in right now. I doubt that it will be as good as Game Pass. Even if you already have a PlayStation, I just have a feeling it's not going to be as good. But hopefully it will. But it remains to be seen. It seems like to me like when Japanese companies show hubris, they are slow to change with the times. When American companies show hubris, they try to nitpick you and make you pay for more than what you actually want, which kind of seems to be what's going on right now. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes, but it seemed interesting to me. Moving on, New York City Anime Convention. This is kind of bad, but there's an Omicron scare. So Omicron variant of COVID that the first person to get it in New York City or in the United States, I forget which one, but at least in New York City, was at an anime convention whenever they had it, but before they knew they had it, I guess. So basically 53,000 people that went there need to, I guess, go get tested or make sure that they don't have it. So yeah, that's a super spreader type event, I guess. I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, unfortunately, conventions are still a thing, and people are still going to them. So yeah, it sucks. Hopefully, it doesn't turn out to be a real bad situation because of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know the risks, and you wear a mask. You mask up. You wear a good mask, and try to eat your veggies and stay healthy as best you can. But I mean, like, these are the risks, and it's totally fine with me for people to go to things like this if they know the risks and take the necessary precautions. It's just you don't get to complain if you die of COVID.
Yeah, but then those guys then go to work, and then before, like, I went to the convention over the weekend. Now I'm at work, and now I'm here mingling with you guys around my cubicle, and you're eating my hot sauce, and now. But oh, guess what, guys? Sorry, I just let you know that I was at the convention. I just found out about this after the fact, and you've been around me. So
Yeah.
yeah, this surprise, and therefore you're in trouble, and you didn't even do the damn convention.
Everybody can wear a mask and everybody can get vaccinated. So, protect yourself from people who go to conventions. But
So vaccinate everyone who's not vaccinated at the conventions, you're saying?
I'm just saying protect yourself. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying protect yourself. If you don't want to get it, then do everything you can. But I mean, like you can't impose on people's freedoms. Um, you just can't do that. So like you've like protect yourself. That's all you can do.
All right.
Um,
Good words to live by.
protect yourself, dog. Buy a gun. um, so that's all. Pretty much just a headline. But going on, the U.S. government is trying to save Christmas from PS5 and RTX 3080 scalpers. This is coming from Tech Radar. Yeah, it's kind of a day late and a dollar short, but basically they uh, they are trying to make a law to hamper what they call Grinch bots, stopping Grinch bots act. They're calling these bots that go up and buy all of the supply of a particular good that's scarce. They're calling them Grinch bots because they're going to ruin the holiday season. Um, so basically, they're going to try to prosecute people who do this or people who use bots to do this and become scalpers. Personally, I think it's like they should have done this. I don't know, 9 months ago, a year ago. Uh, it's not going to save the Christmas season for this year, maybe for 2022, but not for this year.
No, and plus with inflation and all that stuff. So yeah, this kiss this season goodbye. For if you're lucky enough to get some, one of the few who could go to a retail store to grab one, good on you. Uh, Try not to hold your breath. It sucks. Maybe next year will be a better year, but that's what we said about this year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then honestly, as long as Bitcoin and stuff are popping off and those kind of things, personally, I've kind of it depends on how it goes, but I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'm just gonna have to save up enough to pay scalped prices for this stuff because if they're not gonna be able to provide it at a reasonable rate, then I'm not gonna do without my GPU that I should be able to afford and that I need to be able to do other things. I mean, GPUs are good for mining Bitcoin and for playing video games, for sure. But they're also really good for editing video, and they're also really good for drawing in Photoshop. Two things that I like to do and need to do. So it's it's but just going back to this article, like I'm glad that they're able to do it. I didn't really think that they would be able to do something like this. I kind of thought, well, bots are legal to use, so there's nothing we can really do about it. But I guess when it does hamper um, free trade, then they can attack it a little bit. So hopefully it
Yeah,
works for next year.
we'll see. We'll see them finally. I guess the big case is what they'll do to the first person to make an example out of. So all right.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully something. Next, so this is some recent news this past week, I think, or even earlier, the 23rd of November. Wow, this is really old. But I did want to talk about this because it's important to me. Apparently, the upcoming big PlayStation remake is reportedly going to be Chrono Cross. This is being reported from Video Games Chronicle. Did you ever play Chrono Cross?
I did a long time ago when it first came out. I still have my physical copy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as Chrono Trigger, but it was still pretty stand up. Um, yeah, I mean, you had your alternate world cat person, dog person, I can't remember. Um, uh, Yeah, that's been that long. I literally just I remember buying it like right after it came out, being like, "Oh, it has cross in it, or chrono. It has chrono in it, so it has to be chrono like Chrono Trigger, right?" And I bought them like it kind of is, but it's me coming into that mindset. I was like, I was disappointed. This was also after Final Fantasy VII, so the game mechanics was different enough, but it was still pretty cool. It was a solid game. I really I'd recommend it to anyone who hasn't given it a shot, but you can buy it digitally and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah, Chrono Cross is one of my favorite games, um, probably of all time. It's up there. It's definitely not the most, but it's definitely way up there. The music is fantastic, and I really like the
That
art
is.
and stuff like that. Um, but I think this is kind of a curious choice for a remake. Honestly, I don't know why they don't do Chrono Trigger, unless maybe that's just a bit too daunting of a task for them.
I I think it's easier to upgrade. I think they're looking at the 3D assets from the early PS1 games, um, because it's the idea of making a sprite based game. Because those games were took forever in a 16-bit world. Now, if you're gonna take the effort to make that into a modern situation, I can't imagine how bad that would be.
Yeah,
I mean, you're taking, it's like if you're getting that much length out of something so small, so minuscule, if you're trying to upgrade it, it's gonna, yeah, that'd be like a saga, a series, easily a series of taking Chrono Trigger. They'd have if they're already breaking up Final Fantasy VII into multiple games, Chrono Trigger would be breaking it up even more so because
you
that
think
game
so?
had, oh yeah, that game had so many more endings, so many more twists, and I honestly I actually don't want. I don't think everything needs to get the 3D treatment remake. I think if anything, if they were to remake Chrono Trigger, they should just remake it with really kick-ass sprite art. Um, just make it so it's 2D art style, little sprites instead of it having the polygonal, like little pixel art, but actually make them into a really good artwork and still make it a 2D, game, plane. And you don't have to make it all 3D, but you can just make everything look beautiful. And you can maybe revamp certain things, but I just wanted to make it just look better in general. I think that would be the best way to go about that. Um, it'd be theoretically cheaper and simpler than having to make everything into 3D assets as well.
Because I mean, like Final Fantasy VII's like what a 60-hour game, just
It's like 80.
just played
Um,
regularly. I think I got through it in like 70. I don't think it's quite 80. Do you think? I kind of thought it was.
it's at least 70. That's playing just most of the stuff, not doing all the side missions. If you're, granted, if you're going to do all the side stuff, then you're looking at 100 plus. But
Yeah,
because there's some off the wall bullshit that you have to, and
it's
then there's some
wild. Yeah.
RNG involved. Yeah, Knights of the Round and stuff like that. You have to breed chocobos.
I mean, how
Yeah.
long is like Chrono Trigger? It's like 40 hours, right? It's substantially shorter because it's a different
Yes
era.
and no. It depends. Chrono Trigger was the first game to at least in my brain to do New Game Plus, and that game
Yeah,
then
but
let you that game let you beat the that had so many different endings, and to the point where you can literally in the very beginning,
yeah,
you jump in a portal. Though after you beat the game once, there's a new little spot to the right. You
yeah,
jump in that and you can go straight solo man into the final boss.
right, yeah.
Like,
So you
yeah,
can beat the final boss solo and stuff like that. I
yeah,
guess what I'm trying to get at is that like the new game plus and the extra endings, extra endings would add quite a bit of time to it, but um, a lot of that stuff is it's kind of lengthening the game sort of artificially. So actually designing the game, to me, I remember I played Chrono Trigger rather, Chrono Trigger. I played Chrono Trigger and lengthening the game. To me, it just seems like it would be easier to remake that from the ground up because whenever I saw this thing about Chrono Cross maybe being the remake, I thought, well, maybe they mean remaster because I could totally see them remastering it, upresing some things here and there. But to me, there's a really hard line between remaster and remake, and I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of work to remake a admittedly not particularly, to me, Chrono Cross is not that popular. I mean, it
It
got
wasn't. It had its fan. It has a strong fan base, but it was overshadowed by games like Final Fantasy, and also even like I think Parasite Eve did better as far as in the spotlight than Chrono
well, I mean,
Cross.
like, was it GameSpot or whatever gave Chrono Cross like a 10? I forget IGN or GameSpot. It
Um,
got tens. I mean, they're
Okay, no, that's content. That's all right. So that one was it was GameSpot if I remember correctly, and that was a fill-in. It was not a regular cast member.
it's a fake 10.
Um, it was no. That's actually a point of contention is because
I know.
I remember them talking about that being it was just a freelance writer, and then they said, "You sure?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then apparently he didn't even finish the game. Um,
That's
or
not
something
good.
like that. And it was like, so you're saying it's a perfect game? Oh no, I wouldn't call it a perfect game. Then why did you give it a 10?
No, there's no
Because
such
it
thing
was
as a
like
perfect
it was like the
game.
second or third one they've ever given. So
They fucked up. They said they
yeah,
should have. I mean, that's stupid of GameSpot, idiots.
yeah,
Let's
pretty
give this
much.
game that's going to be really good. Probably get like an 8. Let's give it to a freelance writer and not tell him, hey, dog, you can't give this a 10. We don't like. Okay. Well,
Well,
anyway, it
they
would.
didn't question the dude. It's their fault for not doing the due diligence of even questioning him beforehand. Be just like taking it off of face value.
Yeah,
You know.
they should have done better. But it got high marks. I'm pretty sure it got high marks pretty much across the board. A lot of that was on the pedigree, I think, but it's a really good game. But as far as like how it's viewed today, it's like, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't Chrono Trigger. So
Yeah.
to me the moneymaker the moneymaker is, hey, we're gonna go hard on Chrono Trigger and really put our eggs in that basket. But I guess they have their hands full with Final Fantasy remake and everything else that they're trying to do.
I mean, they tried making the iOS port, and that was I remember that came out being bad.
I
Um,
always suck up those
and
ports.
Yeah, they really do. And then I think that port is what was brought to Steam originally, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Chrono, they've already fucked up on Chrono Trigger. But Chrono Cross, I think that's another thing though because it's more of a hidden gem. Like people knew the name, but not enough people actually touched it. So it's just like you only had so much time for JRPGs, and that was still a struggling. It was a blooming industry, but it's still struggling at the time because no one really knew what JRPG was. And then Final Fantasy VII is what really blew it out of the water. And then everyone's like, Final Fantasy series, and Chrono Cross was like, oh, there's another one. It has anime characters in it. Cool, I'll buy it because of anime, or something. Or it has this lineage, but most people didn't, not that I know, didn't, play it. So only a handful of people actually. I know very few people who actually played it, but those who did play it really liked it,
Yeah,
and I think it's a solid game. Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if maybe they're testing the waters for Chrono Trigger. I just can't get around it. But I'm kind of wondering if they're like, we're gonna put out this Chrono Cross because it's a little bit easier for whatever reason, this or that, and if it sells gangbusters compared to what we think it should sell, then we can go forward with Chrono Trigger and really, introduce that, give it the full, Final Fantasy VII remake treatment, and buy themselves some time to get that big whale of a game done before they start on something else. Anyway, kind of going forward with this though, some newer stuff that I just found out today actually is there's another Eden game called Another Eden that I had not heard of until today. But they're going to do a crossover event with Chrono Cross. Apparently, one of the guys that worked on Chrono Cross works on Another Eden, and it's pretty badass. This lady, Rebecca Valentine, for IGN, she wrote an article called "If the Chrono Cross remaster is real, please let it look like this." And it is a pretty awesome. I'm gonna hit play and hit mute after. There we go. So it's a pretty awesome. Skipping ahead, kind of uh, animation, and the characters look pretty great from Chrono Cross. So if it is real, I'm with her. I definitely hope that it looks like this because it looks pretty good. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. This is the first I've seen of this, and um, No, I think this would be fine. Having more of a cell shaded or art style will age better as well. But this looks like it would most definitely hold up well after a while.
Yeah, it looks like kind of the not exactly, but pretty similar to the art style of like Grand Blue Fantasy and the most recent, well, actually, Tales of Arise. Not quite Tales of Arise. I'm not really thinking right. Gosh, the most recent Dragon Quest game. Uh,
Okay. So you're talking about Toriyama's art style?
yeah.
The guy who did the original Chrono Trigger.
No, I'm talking about like the way that they're doing the animation rather than the actual
Okay.
art style.
All right.
Sorry, I need to be more clear about that. But the way that they're doing the animation seems to be, whatever technology they're using for those, it seems to be
All
kind of
right.
like that.
Well, I
Yeah.
came across this house.
Well, that's the other thing is I was like, well, if they're going to be doing the the only reason why I can see budget wise, if they're trying to do from the ground up, is I don't know, man. Toriyama got to get paid. And
Yeah,
if you're going to do Chrono Trigger, that's going to be expensive. I mean, it's not a he gets paid every time Dragon Quest comes out. I bet. So
probably. Yeah, yeah, that's true. He's gonna make his money. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the news. I do have at least one other thing. I guess I do want to kind of talk about. So the HBO um, prequel, sorry, for Game of Thrones, has been canceled. As a show that was supposedly based on The Long Night and Age of Heroes. They spent $30 million on the pilot, and they are still going to cancel it.
oh, jeez.
So I actually think that this is wonderful news. I hated the end of Game of Thrones. I liked the show, and I even liked it up until where a lot of people jumped off in kind of that last season. But at the very, very end, I really hated. And so I also have a severe suspicion for prequels. Something that Stephen King said one time, I think it captures it perfectly, is like a lot, like you can, I forget how he words it, but basically a lot happens in a prequel, but almost none of it is interesting. And I think that's pretty much universally true. If it was so interesting, if the prequel information was so interesting, then you would have made that first. But anyway, so I'm glad that they canceled this. I'm also kind of glad that they had to spend $30 million to figure it out. Hopefully they won't. They
They give up on the idea. You mean they're like we're done? Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that they're done. I didn't want to see a Game of Thrones prequel. I wanted to see a Game of Thrones sequel. If anything,
I'm happy leaving it dead. I mean,
yeah, me too.
um,
Me too. So that's just one thing that I was kind of morbidly delighted about. Yeah.
30 million. Then that's someone got fired. So,
All
right.
maybe not. You never know with these things. But that's it for the news.
All right. Well, I was gonna mention if you got anything for the signal boost coming up.
Yeah, I do. So something I want to shout out there. I did watch this guy's channel on YouTube. Guy by the name of Thor High Heels. He talks about old video games for the most part. And he has a thing. One of his more recent videos. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. But it's called Mysterious PS3 Games. And he goes through PS3 games and kind of talks about them and kind of what they mean, what they meant then, why they did some of the things then. He has a lot of good insight. I think he mentioned that he's actually a game developer or a programmer of some kind. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. in a lot of cool ways. And I recommend his channel in general, but I definitely enjoyed what I watched. I watched about half of the Mysterious PS3 Games video, so I recommend that.
All right, cool. Also, question: did you get that package I sent you?
I did get that package.
Yeah. Can you grab it?
I can grab
If you-
it.
All right. So, what I
I'm
did
gonna
was,
gonna dox your
this is one of the
address
few.
or my
Yeah.
address.
Yeah. Don't dox yourself. That'd be funny. So
Can I open it,
the
or do you
this
want
is
me to
one of the
wait?
few things I did buy for over the holiday buying spree, and I'm like, all right, well, it's something I hope you will get some use out of. So go ahead,
Without further ado, am I man enough to open this with my bare hands?
bite it.
All right. Ta-da! Oh, thanks, dude. This is perfect. I need
All
new
right,
ones of these. Oh,
so
dude, you're too kind.
Nick and I, when we first, long time ago, we ended up buying our headsets around the same time, and I got these aftermarket ear pads, and so he did the same thing because they're more plush, more cush. But the problem is, I noticed yours was getting a little ratty.
What the fuck are you trying to say, dude?
You've worn yours very well.
I have
They're
worn
well
mine very
worn.
well.
Um,
Oh,
so unfortunately, mine have also started to tear up a little bit. So I went ahead
oh
and
yeah.
got them some new ones, but these ones are instead of being the fake leather, these are actually like microfiber or something like that. They're not quite they're supposed to be different from velour. I have a velour ear cuffs for my PlayStation headset, but these ones are they're microfiber, supposed to be nice, soft, and therefore there won't be any more tearing of the fake leather or the PU leather, I think it's called. So
Yeah,
yeah, I hope that
these are from Brainwaves. And I mean they've held up. They've held up nicely. Uh, for me so far. So I guess maybe I can take these and put them on one of my other headsets because I have another headset that it has just with the cheap, ones that come with it. But dude, thank you. This is perfect. This is something I'd never buy for myself. Perfect Christmas gift, dude. Thank you.
well, no problem, man. Yeah, like I said, mine's just starting to tear up as well, especially because of my glasses. So it's starting to rip up in the certain seams, and yeah, you can kind of see it. So every now and then, when I'm done with recording, I'll take them off, and I'll just see a red thing stick to my face. I'm like, ah, damn it.
I
So I'm gonna have
had you got to push through that, dude. I had that for like 2 years, and finally, I just wore it all the way.
to.
But I do want to say, like, because that made a come out wrong. I never would have bought this for myself, but I always wanted to buy it for myself. It was always just like, ah, So that's exactly
It's
what you want from a Christmas
I
gift.
think that's yeah, exactly right. That's something my wife taught me. She's like, during the holidays, because it's always she was like, "What do you want?" I'm like, I don't need anything. And she's like, it's not the fact that what you need. It's like it's what that she usually buys these gifts that I never knew I wanted until I get them.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just like she's really good about that. And here I am, there like, oh crap, what do I do? Gift card. I'm such an ass.
No,
So
I'm gonna. That's what I'm gonna be doing this year. I'm gonna be sending out gift cards because I asked some people what they wanted. I've asked everybody close to me in my life what they want, and I have gotten like I don't know, nothing. So I'm just gonna be, and now I'm just like I don't have enough time to fiddle with all this shit. I'm gonna just get gift cards for everybody.
yeah, I got those same ear pads coming for myself. It just it
Okay,
arrived to you a little quicker than it's arriving to me. So yeah,
good dude.
that's I mean I like I said I have the velour ones for my PlayStation headset downstairs, and that one's really nice just because it's not as sweaty, I guess, is because the fake leather kind of sticks to you a little clammy. So these ones, what from some of the reviews I saw, they said that the microfiber ones are actually are a little cooler as well. So yeah, and it's not as scratchy. So I'm like, all right, that's nice.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, this is a little different. I like it. It's
all
gonna
right.
it's gonna work great.
Well, that is it. Today, once again, December 4th, episode 6 of Another Dead Pixel. thank you for sticking around, and we do appreciate it. Hopefully, we will be able to, have some more exciting stuff coming up. As far as the holiday schedule goes, everything should be running the same as usual. So we'll see you in another 2 weeks, and then we'll be doing 2 weeks after that, which would be the 31st of December. So we're going to be doing something right before the end of the year. So
Yeah. So
we'll have more in the works about that. Maybe what we found to be. I'm thinking maybe our personal best games of the year. Maybe not necessarily of. They didn't have to come out of this year, but at least of the last 12 months. What did you play?
yeah,
And you personally liked?
I think
I think
that's
that's
I think
that's
that's good.
appropriate.
I think we can, like Giant Bomb always says, it's a celebration of games. I think that's kind of what we should go for, is a celebration of what we played. And then next year, I'm hoping next year we'll have played a lot more new stuff, and we can maybe organize it in a different way. But for this year, for sure, at least talk about what we enjoyed the most.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for staying with us, and you take care and take it easy.
All right, guys, have a good one. Bye.